The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Smith. Stick tied up, not much on the shot. A catfish is thrown on the ice with the puck in play. I don't know about that. We love the catfish, but not while the puck's in play. Yeah. Cole Smith tried to get a shot away, and then you'll see the flying object coming in.
Like there's a young kid there just launching it over.
There you go. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025-1063, The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. It was so bad last night. There was a catfish thrown on the ice in the middle of play.
That was the protest.
It was the protest
The
catfish.
game was ugly like that catfish. That's what it was.
I think it's time to have a harsh realization and admit a really difficult truth. Mm-hmm. This team stinks.
Well, I can't disagree with you.
This is not a good hockey team. Willie D, welcome to the party. I said a couple weeks ago, it didn't matter what happened between the All-Star break and the trade deadline, at least for me. Because where it stood for me was I want to do more than just make the playoffs. I want this team to be able to compete. But I said I would be more than happy to swallow my words and to step back if this team showed me anything differently. But I think that's the reality of where we are right now, is that this team hasn't shown me anything differently. And right now, this team is not equipped to make the playoffs or compete in the playoffs where it stands.
Yeah, this team, it's not. Last night, I think, and granted, hell, they were playing the best team in probably hockey right now. But yet and still, even if you're playing the best team, you got to go in and put up a fight. And the first period, they played strong. Even though they gave up a goal, they played strong. But that second period just got away from them. And after that, it just seemed like they just it's hard for me to say because I know how it is when you're in that situation. It's hard for me to say, they just quit, because I don't think they quit. But I think they realize, as you're playing and it's one goal after the next, I think you realize that, listen, we're not in a league. We're not in the same league. The Boston Bruins are definitely 3 or 4 steps ahead of us. And I don't know, that can be demoralizing, in a sense. But this team got some good players. They have some good players, but the good players are not playing. And this team, because of that, isn't a good team where they stand now. And unless they go on a run, I don't see this team making the playoffs. That's just my honest assessment of it. Things can't. And listen, no one hates to be wrong. But if they prove me wrong, then so be it. I got on Austin Hooper basically all season, and when he started to turn around, what did I say? This guy's playing good. So when I'm wrong, I will admit when I'm wrong. I have no problem with it. I hope I'm wrong in this one too. I really do. I hope I'm wrong. But the way it sits, this is not a good team. And I don't know what's going to make it a better team. I don't know if firing the head coach or changing the GM or, trading. I don't know what's going to make this team any better moving forward, at least this season. And maybe even next season, because of the contracts that are on the books. I don't know. Do they have the assets to trade and get back, pieces for next season that are going to help them? This seems like it's going to be a long process. If this was football or basketball, then I would say they can fix this in a year, because of the salary cap. But because of this hard salary cap, I don't know if this is an easy fix. I just don't think it is.
I think you've just hit on sort of the frustration for a lot of people that follow it closely, is because you're in that area where you've got to play your best to be a playoff team, and then is that best good enough to win in the playoffs? I think if your glass is half full, you would say you have a really good goalie, you have more talent on paper than you had last year, and you would have a puncher's chance to at least be better in the playoffs than you've been the last couple of years. But you're also at a point where if you're not good enough and you're not playing to your potential, then you're still a long way from bottoming out to get the high pick. And in hockey, it can be a very long process. We brought up the Red Wings. I was just listening to Elliott's podcast today with Jeff Merrick. They're getting closer, right? The Red Wings have been rebuilding for 7 years. They haven't made the playoffs in 7 years. Now, Detroit.
Yeah.
Derek, they love the hockey up there,
Oh,
right?
they
So they're
do.
starving. They got a brand new building. They haven't had a playoff game in it. They haven't sniffed a playoff game. They're close, but they may not make the playoffs this year. So they're in a dilemma. Do we trade guys and add even more futures, or do we try to stay in there and maybe we make the playoffs? Like, it'd be great to make the playoffs up there. Just making the playoffs, even in that market, might be kind of fun because they haven't been there for so long. For here, it's a different story, right? You're in a different position. So if this is the best you've got, then is it good enough? And last night, that's what was really disappointing to me. It's not that they lost to the best team in hockey, and that was the best team in hockey. So let's start by talking about the Bruins for just a second. There's a team with 40 wins in 53 games. Did you see a team that was mailing it in at all? No. They came right out of the gate. They basically said, we're the Bruins. We're going to put on a show here tonight. You better be at your best if you want to stay in this game. So you can easily coast if you're them and say, hey, we lost to Nashville. We still have 40 wins. We're going to be the number one seed. But that's not what they did. Their top players came out. They played well. So losing to them is not what bothered me. It's just the way that the game was. It was way too easy for them.
Yeah.
They just cruised all the way through the game. And Nashville really never brought anything to the table. And in the position they're in at this point of the season, that's just not acceptable. They know it, right? We're going to play Brian McDonough's reaction to it after the game. He said it well. But you got to pay a price to be successful in this league. So to me, that was really gut-wrenching for me to watch them have that kind of an effort, because that wasn't the team I saw going into the break. Nothing close to it. Not engaged, not desperate, not urgent. And at the point in time of the season, I couldn't believe it.
It's incredibly disheartening considering how important every single game is. And they understand that. That team understands that, how important every single game is, and how it looked like they didn't play with the sense of urgency that I felt that they needed to play with. And to your point about, maybe you could get in the playoffs and hope that you play better than you have the past couple of years. I understand that that's coming from a glass half full approach. I've been given no reason to believe that this team would perform better in the playoffs this year than they have in the past. So you could say, last year.
We're never going to know that if they play like that last night. It's not going to matter because they're not going to make the playoffs.
No, they're not going to make the playoffs.
But I saw a team going into the break that was giving me hope. 12-5-2. We did the numbers after the game last night. Going into the break, 12-5-2. 3 great wins going in. They had the quote-unquote the meeting, right, where everybody aired out whatever was going on, and that was while they were still playing reasonably well. And then they played their 3 best games of the year. What baffles me is what happened to that team. I understand that Forsberg is out and Carrier's out. Those are 2 very important guys. But it's your team structure. Is everybody pulling on the rope? Is everybody engaged at the level you've got to be? And I was seeing that going into the break. And then here, poof, 4 games later, you see something like that last night. And I don't understand what happened there. I don't get that. Because I don't know what their best is, but I know it's better than I saw last night. And so I wake up this morning going, what happened? Where did it go? Because I had some hope going into the preseason. But if it continues like this, we're not going to answer the question, are they good enough to win in the playoffs? Because it won't even be close.
It's almost like a team that conceded and said, we're not good enough. And, so let it be what it's going to be. Let's just get through the game. And that's what it's. And I hate to say that because I know how hard you got to work to be in this position, to play in the highest level in your sport. But it's almost as if they were like, okay, we're not going to win. Let's just move on to the next game. And I don't want that to be true, but I'm watching the game, and it seems like that's the case. Other than the first period, they might as well had, they might as well have walked off the ice, honestly. That's just the way I feel. And it's hard for me to say that because I know what it takes to play at the highest level.
And the puzzling thing is, how do you lose in a game in the fashion that you did on Tuesday against one of the worst teams in the league, and you're not fired up and ready to go against one of the best teams in the league? Who's culpable for that? How are you not ready to go?
I mean, the only person you can point at, two people you can point at, is the leaders on your team, whoever they are, and we know who they are or who he is, and the coach or coaches. That's their job. That's the only people you can point at. I mean, I can sit here and say this guy needs to play better. This guy needs, and I would be absolutely right. But when the blame game starts, they're going to start from the top, and then it sort of trickles down after that. And I'm not saying that's right,
but
or wrong. But
I don't see how anybody could wake up and look at themselves in the mirror and say, well, I did my job last night. I mean, that's one where there can't be a single person that doesn't take some responsibility. Coaches, players, everybody involved with that. I mean, that's not one where you say, well, these guys over here are doing a good job, but it's X, Y, Z that aren't. That's just not enough people brought anything to the table to speak of. I saw a lot of frustration in Roman Josi. I think when Roman Josi, the captain, sees the team struggle, I see him put it on his shoulders. I could see it in his face. We actually showed some shots of him last night. He had a couple of penalties called on him. He was ticked off. And I think sometimes he almost tries too hard to try to make things happen. And when that happens, it makes it even tougher. Right? He's susceptible as a defenseman to make mistakes there, just trying to do too much because he cares so much. I saw Tanner Jeannot trying to make something happen. He was hitting everything that was moving. He was trying to start fights. He was trying to get some energy going in the building, But it's just, I didn't see that desperation that you should see from a team that's fighting to stay in the race. They know they've got to play. They know what it took to get to that point, right? We're not far removed from a team that looked pretty darn good going into the break. So, again, it's baffling to know what happened. And, as Elliott said yesterday, he said nobody should feel comfortable, right, when you have a game like that.
And I think yesterday made it worse because that's what we talked to Elliott about before the game.
Absolutely.
And after that game last night, I look at it and I understand it's the best team in hockey, but that's a measuring stick game. It's like when the Titans played the Buffalo Bills and they got absolutely run out of the stadium. I said, that's the difference between you and one of the best teams in football. That's exactly how I felt last night. That's the difference. That's the measuring stick and the gap between the best team in hockey and where you are at right now. So how do you bridge that gap? I've said for a while, I think it's time to sell. And I think last night just solidified that for me. And I think that solidified that for the rest of the fan base. And I want to get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts, your calls, your text, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025-1063 The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:30. Come on. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The choice is yours. Wednesdays at 8:30 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's Family Leisure's President's Day sale.
Wait, President's Day?
Well, it's in honor of all our presidents, and it means great deals for everyone.
Okay, like what?
Well, pools and spas for one. Family Leisure has the largest selection and guarantees the lowest prices anywhere.
What about grills and grill islands?
Of course, everything is on sale for 4 days at Family Leisure, just in time for spring.
Family Leisure, both locations, Antioch and Franklin.
Family and fun come together.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Your company's hiring. Who isn't? We would love to show you how to use 1025 The Game to attract and retain employees. We can also help you find the exact person you're looking for with a targeted digital campaign. You can trust our team to help you build your team. Email us at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Did you know women only make up 14% of all engineers in the U.S.? Play Like a Girl is creating a more equal playing field by ensuring that every girl reaches her full potential. Help introduce a girl to engineering by becoming a mentor, donor, or volunteer. Learn more at iplaylikeagirl.org/mentor.
One reason for joining a company often becomes the most important reason for why you stay or don't. It's called work culture. At Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station, we put a lot of energy into creating an environment that supports each individual and celebrates them as our teammates. This month, we're saluting Drew Chester in our sales department, who's enjoying his 5th anniversary. And Josh Kuhn, a part-time host on 1029 The Buzz, passes the 3-year mark. Want to join Drew and Josh? Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Satisfied with the, they had the early goal. Did you guys have enough of a pushback in your mind?
I mean, they had the early goal, and then, I thought early in the first period our execution was not close to what it needed to be. I thought we turned pucks over at the offensive blue line. We didn't have ice to play on. I thought our power play was ineffective early. That gives you a chance to be able to have some pushback in the game, and, that was the extent of the first period.
There you go. That was John Hines post-game. Again, the Predators falling 5-0 to the Boston Bruins last night. And
to me, that was
ugly.
I listened to that last night on the way home, and it was kind of like, if you don't have anything nice to say as little as possible. Like, I think there was a lot of things he kind of wanted to say, but he held back a little bit. But what he did say was interesting. The execution with the puck. So it's early in the game. It's scoreless. Well, let's take a look at the first goal, right? Matthias Ekholm, your best players are on the ice for the most part. Top line's out there.
Right.
Ekholm's out there with Jeremy Lauzon, and Jeremy Lauzon, former Bruin, he had a very poor game last night. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Just was
the puck skate
it was
right by him.
It was a nightmare. It wasn't that on that play, but he did have 2 of the goals for the Bruins. He used to play for the Bruins.
Yeah,
well, they went off of him and went in the goal. So it's like some of that's bad luck, obviously, but it's also not being in the right position, kind of in a scramble. But on the first goal, right, here's Matthias Ekholm is shooting the puck from the point as Jeremy Lauzon is actually going down into the offensive end. He's going in deep right now. So that's what you heard John Hines say about the puck decisions, right? So it's a worst-case scenario. The puck misses the net. It bounces back. Jeremy Lauzon is down below the goal line, or below the dots, the face-off dots. So you have 4 guys below the face-off dot. So you're on the wrong side of the puck. And what happens?
Fast break
the other way. So it's a 3-on-1 back the other way with Boston's best players on the ice. And what happens? Bing, bing, bing. It's in the net. So Boston's best players versus Nashville's best players. What did I say before the game? You tell me how Nashville's best players play tonight, and I'll tell you how they do. They got overmatched by Boston's best players, for sure. Then from there, 2 power play chances for Nashville in the first period. Who's on the ice for your power play? Your best players.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Boston's got the best penalty kill in the National Hockey League, but it's your opportunity to push back, get going. Nothing happens on the power play. So, again, who's got to lead you into the fight? You got to start with your best players. And really, by the end of the period, you're fortunate to be down only 1-0. UC Saros made 17 saves in the first period. Kept you in it, still in it after 1. But that's kind of what you're getting at there. It's and then things kind of snowballed. It just they started breaking down from then going forward there. So it's just decisions with the puck, playing your structure, doing the things that you have to do to play against a team that's as good as the Bruins. And they just didn't do it.
It was like and I was going to ask you that question because when they scored their first goal, it was like one of those deals where, everybody's going in, and I'm equating it to basketball, where either it's a free throw and it hits the front end of the rim and it comes off at an awkward angle, but everybody's so deep in that one person that's supposed to be back, he's not back or she's not back, and then all of a sudden everybody's relaxing. All of a sudden the ball bounces long, they get it and they go, and it's like, well, somebody's supposed to be behind me?
That me as a guy with a basketball background, that's what I'm always asking, right, on a play like that is, so in basketball, I can tell you for Vanderbilt, I was a 1 or a 2. I was a point guard or an off guard if I was fortunate enough to be in the game. But those were the rules, right? The point guard, our rule was always never goes to the rebound, never goes for the offensive board, right? Unless you're driving to the basket.
Exactly.
You're always back. The 2-man is always back unless he's driving. Those were the rules. Or if the 2-man goes, the 3-man has to be back, right? You always want to have two guys back on D.
Yeah.
2 guys back on D, 3 guys offensive boards. That was our system, right? Maybe not everybody's system's the same, but it's the same thing in hockey, right? You have rules. If the defenseman goes in, a forward's got to rotate back, right? It all depends on all the little nuances of each person's system, but that's, again, the breakdowns you cannot have when you're playing against the Boston Bruins. And so they had a breakdown on that play with the coverage on who's supposed to rotate back. So too much of that goes on, and then you get what you get.
And I think overall, there's a lot of things that you could point to. Number one, as you pointed out, you're not getting production from your top players, and that's an issue. You're not going to compete, period, if you can't get production from your top players, but you absolutely are not going to be able to compete with the top team in the country in the National Hockey League without contributions from your top players. And then this team just played so unspirited. And that's what I don't get, is we've seen this team play with toughness and play with grit and play with fight. That was the identity. That's what the identity is of this team, ideally. And we saw it last year. We saw, from top to the bottom of the roster, this team just play with a chip on their shoulder, play just gritty. And I didn't see that last night. And so not getting contributions from your top players and not playing to the identity, that to me all falls back on the coach. Because we can say that John Hines had a good year last year because he got production out of the top players. Well, if you're not getting top production out of the top players this year, well, then we have to give blame the same place where we gave credit.
All of it? 100%?
No, not 100%. I think that there's a good bit of truth to the fact that coaches get too much blame and also too much credit. But I'm not going to give 100% of credit or blame to John Hines. But that is part of the blame and part of the credit is if you can't get the team up and ready to play in crunch time, that falls on the coach. If you're going to give credit to the coach for getting the top players for career years last year, and the top players not having career years this year, then it would make sense to fall back on the coach.
Well, I agree with you that he's got to take some of the blame. There's no doubt. But in that specific game last night, I just don't see how a coach needs to get you ready to play for a game of that importance. I really was disappointed with that. I just don't think you just wave a magic wand and say, guys, you got to be ready to play. Everybody should know you got to be ready to play in a game like that. So look, if you're the coach, you got to look in the mirror. Everybody's got to take their – like I said, there can't be a single person involved with that team that doesn't feel awful about what happened last
sure
night.
they do.
But when you say I'm placing all the blame on the coach,
I didn't say I'm placing all the blame on the
You
coach.
did. You started off by saying everybody's got to share equal blame on that. But I would lean more towards the players in that one. Like where's everybody? Where's everybody?
They decided not to show up, I guess. The whole coaching thing. To me, I'm torn because I've said this before. That at least from my perspective, if I'm playing at the highest level, there's no coach in the universe that can. My motivation is to go out there and perform at a high level because I love the sport and I enjoy the sport, and I want to be the best out there on the field. My things with my guys in my group at wide receivers, when we step on the field, we are the best group on the field, no doubt. Regardless how the game goes, we're going out there and we're going to play and we're going to show that we're the best group on the field. It may not happen that way every game, but that's our mentality. So I don't need this coach, that coach to motivate me to. And this is only coming from me. I don't know how anybody else in professional sports feel, but for me, there's not a coach. You can't motivate me. I'm not 5 years old. I'm not 17 years old. I'm not 18. I worked hard to get to this level, so my motivation is to stay here and to be the best that I can possibly be while I'm playing. That's my motivation. So the whole coaching motivation, I'm kind of on that one. But one thing for sure is, one, Willie said it. Playing Boston, somebody shouldn't have to motivate me to play Boston. They're the best team in the National Hockey League. That's a challenge for me. So I'm going to go out there and I'm going to be self-motivated.
You want that opportunity.
Yeah, I want that. I want that challenge to see where we are. We may lose. We may have lost 5-0, but if I went out there and I gave it my all, I'm like, okay, I see we got a lot of improvement to do. But it seems like this team, after the first period, that didn't happen. I can remember going to Indianapolis, and this is when they had Peyton Manning and this awesome team, and we were beat up as a unit in Tennessee. We went to Indianapolis, and we gave them everything that we had. I mean, everything.
I remember this
Trick
game.
plays, we did
Onside
everything.
kicks.
And we still end up losing by 21. But we walked out of there thinking, okay, that team's better than us. Not because we didn't go out there and because we gave it our all. That team just has better players than we do. So there's nothing we can do about it. But at least we went out there and gave it our all for 4 quarters. This team, after the first period, it just seemed like they didn't. Once that first goal went in and then the second one in the second period, it was like, okay, this team's all right. Let's just get the game.
There wasn't the fight back.
It wasn't no fight.
Yeah,
and that's what irritates me. There was no fight. You can fight and still get beat down, but at least fight. Don't stand there and let somebody slap you across the face 3 or 4 times. At least throw a punt, do something.
Yeah.
And this team didn't do it after that second goal in the second period.
Let's get your thoughts on it. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Zara is up next. What's up, Zara?
Hey, so I'm a season ticket holder. We sit down by the goal, and I watch Hines. He does not care. He stands there and looks stoic. And I agree. Yeah, the players have given up, but they've given up when Boyle goes on first thing Monday and says, well, we're not buyers, we're sellers. So if you're telling the team you don't care if you get rid of all the pieces, I'm not going to go out there and fight any more than that. But I will say, Hines not fighting back, there was a couple of those penalty calls. Hines showed no emotion. And I can only imagine what it's like when you go into the locker rooms and he's showing no emotion out on the ice. Yes, they need to have their own want to win, but he has to be there motivating them too. That is his job, is to coach. And 9 times out of 10, he stands there. He looks like he's watching a tennis match, back and forth, and shows no emotion out on that ice. He doesn't show emotion if they score, no emotion if they mess up. And we watched our top line just get obliterated last night. And he's changed lines night after night after night. There's no consistency from coaching. And so when you start talking about, well, the guys don't care and the guys don't this and the guys don't that, it starts with him. To me, it starts with him.
Thanks for your call, Zara.
Too? Yeah.
Good call. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
The point, if she's sitting behind the bench, that makes it 100% that she did not throw the catfish last night, right?
Yeah.
Because the catfish came from the other side of the ice.
She sounded pretty guilty. No,
I don't think it was her, though. Okay.
She had a part of it. She set it up to be thrown from the other side.
She gave the signal? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let it fly.
Yeah. To the point of her saying, hearing David Poile say we're not buyers, maybe sellers. Shouldn't that be motivating in and of itself to say, no, we're going to fight to keep this team together. We're going to prove to our general manager that we can compete. That should light a fire under your butt. And if it doesn't, that's a problem in the locker room.
Willie, I want to know. I wonder. I'm not going to say I want to know because you wouldn't be able to tell me this. But I just wonder with this team. And I'm not too much worried about the whole emotion thing with John Hines because they've been winning 4-0 or whatever, and he shows no emotion. That's his coaching style. So I'm not too worried about because I don't know what he says when he goes into the locker room to those guys. He may show one thing while he's out on the ice, and then he goes in the locker room, maybe another thing. So I'm not going to sit there and say, well, his emotions. But I understand why the fan would say that because they're watching it, and I get it. But I'm not too much worried about that. But Willie, this team, I'm looking at this team, and it just seems like, and I hate to say it, some guys it seems like they don't care.
Let's save your rebuttal for the other side because I want to continue to get into this, and I see your phones lining up. We are right to your phones coming up next, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025, 1063 The Game.
Hi, I'm Jussi Saros. And this is Smashville.
Now here's a try off to the side. What a stop made by Jussi Saros there.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network. ESPN 1025, The Game.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, the fun extends beyond the beach because here the arts are alive, the food is al fresco, and the nightlife is electric. So let's forget the cold and find our place in the sun. Let's explore captivating collections at the Salvador Dali Museum and bask in bay views from the St. Pete Pier. Let's fill up on fresh cod cuisine and catch up over cold craft beer on rooftop patios. Day or night, let's shine. Plan your escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
Stop! Are you about to pay too much for new furniture? Then you need to come by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in Nashville. Their President's Day sale is going on now. You can buy your new furniture today and get it today, but you do not have to pay today. During Social Furniture's President's Day sale, they have special financing for up to 60 months with no money down. Sectional sofas, mattresses, dining sets, bedroom sets, and more are up to 50% off. At Social Furniture, they say yes, yes, yes.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey Nashville, it's Chef Phillip at Bar Lines at the Omni Hotel. Come try our new Nashville hot fish and chips. Beer battered black cod served over crispy fries or tots with Omni's own Nashville hot season blend. Served with chipotle slaw and malt vinegar tartar sauce.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
I can go from 0 to 60 way too fast.
Who knew electric vehicle owners were having so much fun?
20 or 30 years ago, I owned a gas sports car, and this car is much quicker.
It's a great, fun car to drive. When you put your foot on the accelerator, it just goes.
They're fun, they're fast, they're efficient.
Visit driveelectrictn.org to learn how you can start having fun driving an electric vehicle.
Sponsored by the East Tennessee Clean Fuels Coalition, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
The NASCAR Cup Series.
Kyle Larson from the outside lane crosses the start-finish line.
2023 season gets underway in Daytona.
Denny Hamlin gets turned and they're wadding it up in the back of the pack.
For the great American race.
And at age 23, Austin Cindric has scored the Daytona 500 win.
It's the Daytona 500.
Coverage begins at 12:30 on 94.9 The Fan.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game, in the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willie, D. Mays, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app. D. Mays, you had a thought before the break.
Yeah, and you hate to assume that, because that's like, if this happens in your locker room, you might as well just flush the remainder of the season down the toilet. And
lack of belief.
Yeah, if you're in a locker room, if you're anyone, especially top tier guys that they count on, if those guys walk in and a few of those guys have the attitude of, basically, we're not making the playoffs. So, whatever. And I've seen it, not where a whole team does that, but, certain players. And where it's, in football it's different, obviously, because contracts are not guaranteed. So, you may have a guy saying, man, I want to get paid, and another guy that said, man, my contract is coming to an end. I may not be here next year, so you're worried about that. Then you got another guy saying, man, I just want to get this season over with, man, and not get hurt and just get ready for next season. And when you have all these voices, all these thoughts, then it does affect how you perform out on the field. And I just hope that it's not that way with the Predators, because we've talked about it. They had this meeting, and they came out and they played well, and then you go on break, and then come off after break, and you thinking, okay, this team's about to rev it up a little bit, and everybody comes back and it's flat, and you sort of excuse it a little bit, saying it was the break. That the next game it'll get a little bit better, and it doesn't get better.
Let's ramp it back up.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's
it's
get
not.
it. Right.
So you just wonder, like, is there guys on the team that are thinking about other things rather than hockey?
And that's the disheartening thing, is going into the break, this was a fringe playoff team. And Elliot Friedman said, hey, let them tell you what you need to do at the trade deadline. Get yourself in a comfortable position to make the playoffs. So it's not like the Predators were just some, bottom feeder team in the league that had no hope. This team had everything to play for. So if that is the mentality, that's an incredibly disheartening thing. And I don't know if it is or not.
I don't know what happened during the break, because they had the meeting. They aired out a lot of things, right? They felt really good about what was said in the meeting, and then they played their 3 best games of the season. But it wasn't just the 3 games. They were 12-6-2 over 20 games. That's a quarter of a season. So it shows you what they can be when everybody is pulling the rope, doing their thing, doing their job. And to have it just go, it sort of disappeared on you, and have that feeling that you're seeing, Derek, that I think everybody saw last night. It was like, what's the fight level? What's the battle level overall of this team? Like, what happened? It's really mystifying.
Let's get your thoughts on it. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Gene is up next. What's up, Gene?
Hey, how are you folks doing today?
Doing good.
Good. I've been listening to I just wanted to see what everybody had to say about the game last night. I was there. I'm a partial season ticket holder, and I played hockey. I played minor league hockey, so I'm not just talking from one game. And Derek, you hit it, I think, right on the button with the lack of fight last night. I was kind of like glad you said that. Coming from a football player and not know about a hockey game, but and Willie, you made the call. I know because you were doing the game. That hit last night on Ryan McDonough. I mean, I can't remember who it was on Boston. I don't know if it was. I can't remember who it was that hit him. But he just pasted Ryan McDonough against the boards. And I know in some games, some referees might even call that roughing or boarding. I mean, the sound resounded right through the whole building. You could hear the crowd go, ooh, ah. Nobody on the Preds even got in his face or even talked to him. And, you can't have a team come into your building and just run roughshod and just blow. So you don't have to fight, and it doesn't have to be a penalty in order for you to do that. You got to let them know you're not coming in here and doing that.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Gene.
Yeah, that was a moment in the game, and I think McDonough knew he was going to get hit, and he really set up Yossi for a pretty good shot. And at that point they needed shots.
Yeah.
They needed scoring chances. They were having trouble. Boston is the toughest team to score against, right? They're the number one defensive team in the league. They're also like the third best offensive team. It's a pretty good combination that they have. But the play he's talking about is a good play. Now, look, who are the guys that are going to make a statement there? It's Lausanne. It's Jeannot. It's Trennan. You know, those guys, Jeannot had 8 hits. Trennan had 6 hits. You know, they were hitting. I saw Jeannot try to engage, in fairness. I did see Jeannot try to engage with some Boston players. Boston traditionally always has the fighters. This Boston team really was not interested in fighting last night. And, you know, when you're ahead, you know, you don't have to fight.
Why would
you don't
you
have
entertain
to.
fighting?
I saw one guy just said,
Scoreboard.
I'm just going to go over to the bench.
Yeah.
Tanner, I'll see you later. I know you'd like to fight me, but I'm heading to the bench right now. I'm sorry. I'll have to get back to you another time. I don't think he really wanted to fight Tanner Jeannot. So
now, why did he get tossed?
I don't know what he did to get tossed. That was the golden minute fight. I just think it was frustration. I think it's partially because he couldn't get a Bruin to fight with him. Honestly, I really do. I think he was. I think this is what Tanner Jeannot is made of. Right? He is a guy that will do anything for his team. And it was a frustrating night. He's trying to exact a pound of flesh and do something. Like the caller is a hockey player. He knows this. This is a part of the culture of hockey, right? If you're going to go down, you go down with a fight.
Go down swinging.
And especially, you're trying to bring other guys into the fight. That's what. If everybody had that last night, I don't think it would have been 5-0, right? It would have been better. And so I see what he's talking about. You know, it's hard to pinpoint one play, but it's an example of a lot of things that were going on collectively. At the end of the game, you just say, what was our battle level? Was that acceptable for a team that's fighting to get into the playoffs and has to have maximum, but meet their maximum potential to make the playoffs and be the team you can be? I always look at it just very simply. Look, are they the best team in hockey when they're playing their best? No. Are they good enough to win in the playoffs if they're playing their absolute best? I don't know. But I know it's a heck of a lot better than what we've seen since the break. That's what's disappointing to me.
Yeah.
And that's what's disappointing if I were a player in that locker room, if I'm a coach. Like, that's what's frustrating. When you come every day, you just want to be the best that you can be. You're going to have your off nights, but this is the critical time of the season. You worked so hard to get back into position where you could make something of the season. We talked about the second semester, right? Since the second semester started, I don't understand what happened. People aren't coming to class. They're coming late. They're failing tests. Yeah, come on,
Professor Willie.
There's still 30 games left. Don't bow out now. There's still a lot of chapters left here, but you're putting yourself again behind the 8 ball. You're falling back down into the hole that you worked. It appeared to me that they did a lot of work to climb out of that hole. But now you're sinking back.
It felt like a team that felt like they were comfortably atop the division and had a very comfortable playoff spot with a handful of games left in the season.
And if you're 1-3,
it's the exact opposite of what this team is in right now.
And if you lose 3 out of 4, but it's bad bounces, you're playing well, you got some bad luck, a couple of guys get hurt, okay. But it's just the way it's happening doesn't sit well, you know. Because you come back to what's the urgency level? What's the battle level? What's the competitive level? It's not where it needs to be. They know it.
It doesn't feel like there is any. And I don't want to accuse anyone of not trying, because I know that's not the case. But what I saw last night was just, it looked like a team that felt hopeless. And that is incredibly disheartening for a team that just a couple weeks ago was a fringe playoff team. We'll continue to get into your thoughts. I see your phones. We'll write to them next. Continue your Predators thoughts. Again, the Predators losing to the Boston Bruins last night, 5-0. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
We are your home for every big pass.
Kevin Harvick takes over the race lead.
Big wreck.
Trouble turn 2. One car is around and hard into the outside wall.
And big win.
Austin Dillon wins at Daytona.
Catch every lap of NASCAR on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Happy Friday, and man, I need to tell you something about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and his wife Daphne, along with that experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, that's including me, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. So there's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. Man, what are you waiting for? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number. Put it in your phone and save it. 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
The National Wild Turkey Federation is celebrating 50 years of conservation delivery during this year's Convention and Sports Show, set for February 16th through 18th at Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Come celebrate the golden anniversary with members, volunteers, partners, and countless outdoor enthusiasts. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from more than 450 companies featured in their exhibit hall. For more info, go to nwtf.org.
The Nashville Sheriff is hiring correctional officers. Earn $52,500 after paid training and probation. Positions are available immediately. You must be 21 and over with a high school diploma or GED. Come join our family. That's $52,500 with great benefits. Apply now at sheriff.nashville.gov/apply or call 615-862-8170. Earn $52,500. Stop searching. Apply now. The Nashville Sheriff.
Curation CBD, a Pick 10 company, offers high-quality, lab-tested CBD products curated for life for both you and your pet.
Hi, I'm Adam Intihar, also known as the Dog Father of Nashville. Curation 600 milligram CBD roll-on really helps me get through my training days. Applying it in the morning and again at night helps me take bites from dogs like Zulu or go on adventures with dogs like Lieutenant Dan. Curation is awesome.
Discover the full range of Curation products online at CurationCompany.com.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and in the past, hair loss was inevitable, but now you have a choice for thicker, fuller hair. Trust the experts with 45 years of experience at Hair Club. They've helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair again. No matter your age, stage of hair loss, or budget, Hair Club can customize a solution for you. And for a limited time, you can get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase. That's hairclub.com/chase.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with one interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. And hey, moving is no fun and can be expensive, so you can save on your next move with our Nashville's best deal of the week from Black Tie Moving. Get $200 off a half-day move for just $75 or $400 off a full-day move for $150 at thegamenashville.com/deals. Got a bunch of texts in the text line. I see the callers lining up, so unless you have a thought, to the phones.
So let's do it.
Let's do it. Frank texts in and says, I think the Preds' confidence as a team is broken. That's resulting in them playing to not make mistakes, which snowballs into playing tight and results in some ugly play. Thoughts on? I mean, yeah, it feels like this team is a team playing with no confidence.
That was something that Ryan McDonough said after the game. He said confidence was in there. You know, among the things that he was saying. Now, I think about him a lot in where he's been in the game, right? He's been on winning teams. He's been on different winning teams, right? Different places. He knows what it takes to win. He's played on maybe the best team of the era when you get down to it in Tampa Bay. He's coming directly from there. So he knows what it takes to win. I think he's worked hard behind the scenes with this team to try to bring them out of that early hole. Right, and so that was one thing he mentioned last night with puck decisions. You know, what causes you to make poor decisions sometimes or think too quick? Sometimes maybe you're doubting yourself a little bit. You lose, and I do think if we're trying to figure out, and look, I'm no expert. How can we ever know? Like, if every coach could just magically figure out what it is, you know, nobody would go into a slump like this. But if I'm trying to look at reasons why the confidence dipped, or what's different since the break, they had that poor first game against Vegas. Did that shake the confidence a little bit? Was it a little bit fragile? That what they had come together with before the break? You know, did it just sort of have some doubt creep in? But then when they recovered and won at Philadelphia, even though it wasn't the prettiest game, Philadelphia, the way they play,
but
kind
they
of
fought against Philadelphia.
But they found a way. They lost Forsberg during the game. They had some guys get in fights. You know, they were battling, and they won the game. So I felt like that, you know, was not an issue. Then you lose to Arizona, right? Even though they outshot them, they outchanced them, they did a lot of puck didn't go in. Does that create a little bit more doubt? So the confidence, I think, is an interesting theory, and I do think confidence can rise and fall in a group during a season. I think that's a fair thing to throw out there.
And I look at this thing, and I'll go back to the two things that I noticed last night. Top players aren't playing well, and the confidence just wasn't there. But those are things that we know this team can do. We've seen them do it. Play hard, play with toughness, play with grit. We've seen Duchesne, we've seen Johansson, we've seen Forsberg, even though he wasn't out there last night, even in the games that he hasn't been producing. We've seen those top players contribute and play really well. What happened? Where did it go?
It's and that's what everyone's trying to figure out. And I can only, you know, again, I can't. And I hate to sort of say that about, you know, the team or certain players, but having gone through that, you know, not being a good team, and losing games and teams being overmatched in teams against teams, it does seem like it's almost like that here we go again mentality. Like, if they don't score the first goal, or it's not a close game, if it gets a little bit away from them, instead of, you know, really lacing up your skates and really getting gritty, it's not with all of them, but it's some, it's like, here we go again.
Yeah, they wilted back a little bit.
Like,
last night it definitely
again.
happened that way. I do think that what I've heard Ryan McDonough say before, and this was a few weeks ago, as the team was starting to play better, he said, we feel like now, you know, we kind of had some struggles there early in the season. They were 5-8-1. Remember, coming back from Prague, they lost it. Like, what happened? But as they started to build back, he said, we believe now we have a formula that if we play our game, we know we're going to have enough chances to win, we're going to get enough offense, and we're going to play the type of defense we need to play to beat good teams. I thought that was really well said. But you have to have that belief in the formula. And so that's, again, where I'm mystified, because everybody seemed to be on the same page with the formula, with the belief that they could be good teams if they do that. But it seems to have they got lost a little bit here, you know, in the 4 games since they've come back. They haven't been able to find that formula, and maybe so it does look like that the confidence has been shaken a little bit.
Mike is up next. What's up, Mike?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. How are you doing?
Good.
Hey, I wanted to chime in because I haven't been able to call in live or listen to you guys live for a while. This is mostly podcast. Willie continues to baffle me with his takes on the Predators, because I really, Carolyn, I think you're absolutely spot on it. I think you may have mentioned it a couple of days ago that this is what this team, they are who they are. This is not, you're not going to find out something new about this team in the next 30 games, Willie. We've been saying this for 4 years. What has this team struggled with for the last 4 years? We've heard it in the post-game press conferences. It's like a repeat over and over. Confidence, bad power play, secondary scoring being a problem, top players not being top players, inconsistency, lack of discipline. It's the same tape on repeat, and it doesn't change Like, dude, what are you going to find out in the next 30 games that you don't already know about this team? It's a good team, has good players, has some guys that can do things. They can play really well at times, but they're inconsistent. And they've never been consistent since they won the President's Trophy. This is an inconsistent team. They are who they are.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Mike. And that's how I feel about this team. Is we've seen it this season. It is you win a few, you lose a few, you win a few, you lose a few. It's inconsistencies. The offense might look great for a couple of games, and then it goes dormant for a few games. I see this team being just, it is what it is, and right now this team just isn't good enough to be where this organization wants it to be, where I know this organization wants it to be. And that's competitive in the playoffs. And I don't think anything is going to change unless something with this team changes.
I just tell you where I'm coming from with that. Where I come from, you have two choices when you get into this situation, right? You can just give up, and I guess if he's calling in and saying that he wants to see wholesale changes, et cetera, which, as we've documented, are not easy to do, right? It's not easy to just overhaul your team, trade half of your team, fire the coach, start over, all that. That's a whole different process, and it could take you a decade to get back. So to me, I look at it and say, can you keep fighting? Keep fighting for 30 games. Can you reach your potential in 30 games? It may not be good enough, but you try. I just don't think you stop trying. Now, it's a different discussion of, do you get to a point at the trade deadline where you have to hedge your bets a little bit? Maybe you can't overhaul your whole team, but you have to be realistic and say playoffs may not happen this year, and you make some smart trades that help the process along. But all I've tried to do is say, what is the best this team can be? And are they coming up short? Are they exceeding expectations? Or are they below expectations? They've been below expectations.
Yeah.
There's something I don't know what the ceiling is, but it's better than this.
You would hope it's better than this, but this is what they've shown, the inconsistency throughout the whole season. The last 4 games, they've been outscored 15-4. And, if you're going to try to get back into the playoff picture, which seems to be very, very, the light is very dim at this point.
You need to win 18 to 20 games in your next 30.
Yeah, you're going to have to figure out, 1, how to score more goals, and then 2, how not to, put yourself in a position like you were in last night. And frankly, I don't, and the caller was right. We've seen what this team, after it's been 40, 50-something games now?
52. So you have 30 games left, and as Caroline said, to make the playoffs, you're looking at probably, the math I've done is 18 to 19 wins, plus some overtime losses would get you there. But you do have to be realistic and say, is this what this team has been? Can they do that? I was optimistic going into the break. But these 4 games, it's like the old let the players decide, the Elliot Friedman.
They showed
the players are showing that they don't look like a team that can win 18 out of 30 the way they put this out there before. I would have said I was very optimistic that they could going into the break. So it's the same guys.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but the way it looks, I don't think this team will. I don't think they can, and I don't think they will because they're too inconsistent.
It seems like to me the playoffs seem. You're not making the
We
playoffs.
shouldn't be
You're
talking about the playoffs right now.
Let's get to one more quickly. Connor's up next. What's up, Connor?
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
Got you.
Hey, I just want to qualify myself. I mean, I played hockey my entire life. My youth team went to the first game in '98 versus the Florida Panthers. So I've been following this team since I was a little kid. And I think from what I'm seeing is, I agree with the last caller. Since the President's Trophy, we've just gone downhill. And you look at who left the team at that time. Shea Weber was right before that. We lost Mike Fisher. I thought Ryan McDonough would come in and be able to kind of stabilize the room a little bit, but we just don't have any leaders. And Yossi he's an assistant captain in my book, and he's a great leader. He's a great force on the ice. He's a great player, but somebody who can really galvanize the locker room, I don't think that exists. And then you have to put that on the coach when there's nobody there to do that. And just like we say Vrabel, the Titans have the identity of Vrabel. That same thing can be said about John Hines. It's kind of like lackadaisical.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Connor. I appreciate that. And coming up next, he talks about the locker room, and we've been wondering what's been going on in the locker room to go out in a game against the best team in the NHL. You want to prove yourself. You're a fringe playoff spot, and you come out and you don't come out with that fight. What's going on in the locker room? Well, Ryan McDonough gave us a little bit of a hint behind the curtain of what could be going on in the locker room. We'll get into that coming up next. And continue to get back into your phones, your Preds thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025-1063 The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics. If you have painful joints, arthroscopic surgery may be the cure to solve your pain. Arthroscopic surgery is minimally invasive and provides faster recovery time. The experienced doctors at Houston Clinic Orthopedics may be able to get you feeling back to normal with an arthroscopic surgery of your knee, shoulder, hip, elbow, wrist, or ankle. Each of the 10 locations in Middle Tennessee has an arthroscopic surgeon that can determine if this type of surgery is the best option for you. Visit tn.houston.com to learn more and to book an appointment. Houston Clinic Orthopedics. When experience matters.
The Nashville Predators were shut out 5-0 last night by the Boston Bruins, and goaltender Jeremy Swayman picked up his second consecutive shutout versus Nashville. And after the game, defenseman Ryan McDonough weighed in on his team's execution.
There's a willingness and a price to pay, if you want to win in this league, and certainly that team was doing it consistently throughout the game. Just being disciplined, putting pucks behind us, wearing us down that way, taking what's given if there was an opportunity on an odd man, and certainly, didn't give us anything for free.
Nashville is back in action tomorrow against the Florida Panthers at 1 p.m., and then we'll play at Minnesota on Sunday. And Ian Rappaport reports that the Commanders are interested in offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy and have mutual interest, and it's trending in the right direction toward him being named their next coordinator. And the MTSU men's basketball team won 74-70 last night over Florida Atlantic. They're now 9-7 in Conference USA play and will take on Florida International tomorrow evening. I'm Nick Kieser for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 1025 and 1063.
1, 2, 3. I think it was a good game. You had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willie, and D. Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025, 1063 The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. A really rough loss for the Predators last night, 5-0 at the hands of the Boston Bruins. And I think that I view this game as a measuring stick game. Boston is the best team in the NHL. Losing to that team is not surprising, but it's in the fashion in which the Predators did lose. In a game where they had everything to prove, everything to fight for, and they just simply didn't see it out on the ice. You didn't see the fight. You didn't see the fire. It didn't seem like a team that was trying to prove to its general manager that we deserve to stay together and make a push for the playoffs. I didn't see that last night when I really thought they should have stepped up and shown that.
Well, you saw a team that at least I saw, and again, I could be wrong here, and I hope I am, but I saw a team that, after the first period, didn't fight. They just laid down and said, you know what, y'all the better team, and, let's just get this game over with, and that says a lot about the team as a whole, because, like Willie said, it's not that they lost. I don't think anyone picked them to win against Boston. Anyway, it's the fashion in which you lost.
Yeah.
It was like, okay. It was like almost like, I'm just going to open the gate or open my front door. Go ahead and take everything you want in my house because I can't beat you. I can't do anything to stop you. So go ahead and take everything in my house.
Graciously accept my L.
And then when you leave, I will close the door and lock it, and you can go about your merry way.
Yeah. And it was too easy.
Yeah, it was just
didn't have to work
entirely
hard.
too easy.
I mean, not that Boston doesn't work hard. That's the thing about Boston is they could have coasted and said, we got 40 wins. We're the Bruins. Whether we win or lose this game, in the big picture, we're fine. Who are we trading for? They came in and they had the edge. They showed why they're the best. And then they were probably looking around going, hey, man, that was easy.
Yeah.
Rolled out of here with an easy win. Hey, didn't even have to break a sweat almost. That's what stings. That's what stings.
And I know we're all frustrated. I know you, Preds fans, you're all frustrated, but you're not alone in that because Ryan McDonough shared some pretty obvious frustration about the state of this locker room, the state of this franchise, the state of this team. This is long, but I think it's worth a listen. This was Ryan McDonough postgame last night.
Best team in the league, is it that much better, or were there some mistakes made on your part tonight?
I think there was a lot of execution left out there by us, lack of it. We've seen a lot of missed passes, some odd man rushes where you'd like to generate something and we don't. There's a willingness and a price to pay. If you want to win in this league, and certainly that team was doing it consistently throughout the game. Just being disciplined, putting pucks behind us, wearing us down that way, taking what's given if there was an opportunity on odd man, and certainly didn't give us anything for free. And so I think that's the difference in the game. They win the special teams and obviously 5-on-5. So it's tough to find a way to win games when you're kind of lacking in all those areas.
First goal they scored, kind of an illustration of how quickly they can change things. Miss shot on one side and boom, it's 3-on-1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they just kind of wear you down, take what's given, and you've got to try to play as close to mistake-free hockey and keep yourself positionally sound and patient within the game as far as not forcing things, not trying to do too much. Obviously those guys have got a great recipe going for them and feeling confident. And for us, it's a lack of confidence at times as far as when there's a play to be made and when not to, and be disciplined and get to our forechecking game.
A little disappointing. I mean, you guys maybe played your best 3 games going into the All-Star break. A little disappointing how things have gone first 4 coming out.
Sure. I mean, no, most definitely. I mean, you want to play, you practice hard, you play to win games, and certainly we knew where we were at coming out of the break there as far as the standings go, and it is what it is right now. We've had a couple of tough losses here. 2 losses. I think there's a lot of plays left for us to be made execution-wise and doing the little things to win games, and so the fortunate thing for us is we've got opportunity pretty quick here again at home, and certainly not out of the race as far as finding a way to get in the playoffs. So our mindset has to be ratcheted up, everybody in this room here, and believing and trusting each other to go out there and get the job done.
The mindset and the mental game isn't necessarily something that can be taught. So how do you kind of work on that and work on as a team getting mentally reset for the next game?
I mean, obviously, we have to do a job holding ourselves accountable, our teammates accountable, and whether it's watching things on video and talking about things as a line and as a D pairing and a unit of 5 PK units. That's the only way you can really grow as a team here is holding each other accountable and putting in the work to come back and be better the next day.
There you go. That was Ryan McDonough postgame last night. One thing that stood out to me there, so there's a price to pay to win in this league. So that's clearly not price or sacrifices that this team or individual players are making. And that's a player problem. That if you are not doing what it takes to win in this league, you're hurting this team. And so it could be easy to say, sell those players off or get rid of the bad eggs in the locker room. Well, you're set. This team is set up that have contracts that are so undesirable to sell off. So that's partly a David Poyle problem. The buy-in and the confidence in the locker room, Ryan McDonough said it, the confidence is struggling. It's wavering in this locker room. That's partly on the players, and that's partly on the coach and the motivation. So I'm looking at this locker room, and I'm looking at ways that this team can be fixed, and I just don't necessarily see it because the general manager has set this team up with almost indispensable contracts, and it sounds like there's just no hope in the locker room, that there's no turnaround for this season, and it doesn't seem like there's a way out for next.
First of all, I really commend Ryan McDonough for standing up and answering the questions after a tough loss and being pretty frank, right? And
I appreciate that.
He's got, as we said in the last hour, he's got a background of winning. He knows what a winning team looks like. He's been on great teams. Hold yourself accountable. Hold your teammates accountable. That is what the meeting was all about after the St. Louis game. That's what really is disturbing is you can't have a meeting every week, as you know, Derek, right? You can't have they have too many meetings. It starts going in one ear and out the other, and it doesn't have the same effect. So it's disappointing that you had that meeting, and I have no doubt that Ryan McDonough was a big part of that meeting, trying to do exactly what he said. Hold yourself accountable. Look yourself in the mirror. What can I do? And hold each other accountable. You know, the leadership has said, look, I need more from you guys. I mean, you've got to do it. Coaches are involved in that too. The coaches were in on that meeting, right? It wasn't a players-only meeting. It was trying to air everything out. And like you said, Caroline, a lot of teams in the league, in order to keep your best players, you choose who your best players are, you invest in them, you've got to give them 7 or 8 year deals. That's what the market is. So a lot of teams have this. They have pieces that they can't move. So you have to try to get the most out of them. Last year, they got a lot out of Johansson. They got a lot out of Duchesne. They had a good year from Granlund. They had a great year from Yossi, a great year from Forsberg. Forsberg earned one of those contracts because of the year that he had. This year, it's not happening. So there are some teams that sort of rise and fall based on how much mileage you're getting out of the players that you invest the most in. And now McDonough is one of those players. He came here. He's got a pretty big salary cap hit, right? So he's got to pull his weight. So all that to say is there's not that much difference between having a good year and having a subpar year. And a lot of it comes down to those details. What are you bringing to the table every night? Are you paying the price that it takes to win in this league? It is a tough league, even if you're playing Arizona, but absolutely when you're playing Boston, right? If you're not fully invested, and this is really every sport. What does Mike Vrabel say? If you're not ready to play in this league, this is the best league in the world, you will lose. I don't care who you're playing. So that's what you got to have. You have to have max effort. So that's what really stung about last night's game. And you could tell with Ryan McDonough, that's how he felt about it.
But and here's the sad part about it is because, you know, Mike Vrabel can say that, and then if you're not doing it, you know what? See you later. I can cut you.
Yeah.
I can get rid of you at the end of the season. You're gone, and I can replace you with someone else. In hockey, it's hard to do that. It's hard.
That's right.
So it's like essentially,
It's easy to sit back
yeah.
and cruise.
That's why I'm like, you know, I'm not in favor of, you know, firing Hines or keep him, but he may have to. He may have to get removed from that seat because in this sport, it's almost the players are going to get you fired because you have guys that are on these contracts that are so inconsistent that last year they played lights out. This year, you can't find them. And it's going to get the head coach removed from his seat.
Can't fire the players.
Because you can't get rid of the players because nobody wants them because of the contract and their play. So what do you do as a GM or as an owner? You got to look toward the guy that's running the ship. And that's the head coach and then ultimately the GM.
And I think that they're both culpable because I remember at the end of the year press conference, David Poyle said, I haven't given John Hines enough tools to win. And I agreed with that. That is part of the problem.
And that's why Nita Ryder and McDonough were brought in.
Exactly. And I thought, okay, those are moves to make a push. Those are moves to continue to build off what you did this year and do better next year. And the fact that they haven't gotten there, even with added pieces to improve the team, that I put on John Hines as well. They're both culpable in this scenario. But let's get to a quick phone call. Paul is up next. What's up, Paul?
Hey, guys. I'm one of those born and raised in Nashville. Nashville came to town, the Predators, when I was in college, so I've been a fan the whole way through. It was a very different experience getting tickets, what it cost, everything before the 2017 season. And I've been a season ticket holder for quite a while. I didn't jump on in 17. I think what is so frustrating is the decline of the product on ice, which you can't be great every year. I fully understand that. But then at the same time, just the unending coach speak. Even yesterday, the assistant coach, Dan Hines, was on this radio station, I think on the morning show, saying how deep all four lines were and how they could compete with every team in the league if they could just put it together on the ice. And maybe that's just coach speak, but it makes us feel like we're blind because it's just not fun. It's not a fun experience anymore.
What would you have him say in that scenario? You're an assistant coach. You get asked the question. What would you say?
There's different styles, and I'm not saying this is right, Willie. I don't know what I would say. That's why I'm not qualified to say that.
Okay, but I'm just saying, put yourself in his shoes. You're a coach. You have to
come out and call their players out. No, there are NHL coaches that will call their players out.
Yeah, thanks for your call, Paul.
I'm not sure the assistant coach would be the one to do that.
It's a tough position.
It's a tough position to be in, for sure. There are coaches that will get a little personal, in media situations. I agree with that. I think they've tried to push a lot of buttons, this coaching staff, with this group. They had, like we said, like going through a lot of the season last year, they had a really good thing going. That's what I think is frustrating for everybody, is they worked so hard to build that to where they were, and they haven't been able to find it consistently this year. They thought they had it fixed going into the break, and then a step back here. It's frustrating. And so I don't to sell out and say just start ripping everybody. I don't know that that's the way to go, right? Some coaches do, but Dan Hinote is a positive. He's an energy. He's a believer. He's going to try to create the formula. He's going to come in every day and try to pick people up. I think that's his role on the staff.
And this is no disrespect toward Dan Hinote whatsoever. I don't think the fans' number one concerns about this team should be what the assistant coach is saying. I think your number one concern should be the product on the ice. And whatever they say behind closed doors, if that changes the outcome, that's what matters. Not necessarily what Dan Hinote says publicly facing. Because we say it with the Titans all the time. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you what they're actually thinking. They're not going to tell you what they actually talked about in the locker room. The number one concern should be the product of the team.
Yeah.
The phone lines are absolutely loaded. We are right to your phones coming up next, 615-737-1025. Ask D. Mace in 15 minutes. Make sure to get those questions in for D. Mace. It's Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Your home for MTSU basketball is 94.9 The Fan.
Three ball, yes sir!
All the big shots and moments live here. MTSU basketball is on a station built for you. 94.9 The Fan.
All right, make 2023 the year that you beat Vegas. Superbook Sports gives you the chance every week to go head-to-head with the best odds makers in Las Vegas. There's no fancy computer algorithms. There's no guys across the pond setting the lines for American sports. It's just the best odds makers, the best team of odds makers in the business, and they're right there behind the counter at the Superbook in Las Vegas, Nevada. One of my favorite places, a place I hope to be very, very soon. Plus, Superbook features some of the best odds boosts and promo bets that you will find anywhere. So do like I did. Download the Superbook Sports app, deposit your money, place your bets, and get to winning. They have everything from hockey to basketball to racing. There's a big race that I'm a fan of this weekend. You can bet on that right on the Superbook Sports app. I like Ryan Blaney to get it done, by the way, this weekend in Daytona. So just download that app today. Start your battle against Vegas right now. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Signs First, Nashville's foremost destination for event signage and physical media. Located just minutes from Broadway, our team of design, production, and installation professionals can help you create an unforgettable event. Stand out. Be different. Go to sfnash.com.
Stop! Are you about to pay too much for new furniture? Then you need to come by Social Furniture on Charlotte Avenue in Nashville. Their President's Day sale is going on now. You can buy your new furniture today and get it today, but you do not have to pay today. During Social Furniture's President's Day sale, they have special financing for up to 60 months with no money down. Sectional sofas, mattresses, dining sets, bedroom sets, and more are up to 50% off. At Social Furniture, they say yes, yes, yes.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You know, we've all felt the impact of inflation on everything from food to housing to gas. But most people don't realize the cost of your home and auto insurance is also likely to go up. With the rising cost of building materials, car parts, and labor, even the insurance companies are taking a hit, which means you will too. So if you're working with a company that only has one option and not a company that shops multiple carriers to find the best deal, you're wasting your money. It's why you should be working with Zander Insurance. They represent over 24 top insurance companies that are competing for your business, meaning you get the right home and auto coverage at the lowest prices this year and every year. And Zander's service can't be beat. I know from experience. Just check out their reviews. Saving money has to be a priority these days. Go to Zander.com or call 800-356-4282 and find out how much you can save. You'll see why over 500,000 families trust Zander.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame and on Instagram at 1025thegame Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too. This is Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 1025, 1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. Your phones are lighting up, so right to your phones we go. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Bicycle Boy has been waiting very patiently and is up next. What's up, Bicycle Boy?
Hey, gang. Let me get this out of the way really quickly. Willie, I've moved out of Middle Tennessee after 40 years, going way back to you and the director and Biddle. But thankfully, I can stay connected by listening to you guys on the app. So thanks for that avenue.
All right, and I did know that, Bicycle. I had a source tell me that you had moved. I felt a disturbance in the force, but they told me. So I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're still tuned in.
Yeah, well, I'll be back. I still got tickets, so I'll be back.
Okay, good.
So here's my take. I don't know what the identity of this team is anymore. These people that think we need to fire Poyle, I think, are clueless as to what GMs in the NHL have to put up with. The draft is not like the NFL draft, which I think a lot of Middle Tennessee people. You don't get players out of the draft that are going to come in very quickly and make impact. I think we've got talent. We've got two superstars. We've got Yossi and Soros. We've got talent. Poyle went out and got Niederreiter and McDonough, improved the roster. It leaves me with the coaching. And Carolyn, you kind of touched on it earlier. If the coach can't motivate the team and inspire the team, you can't fire the team. You got to fire the coach. And that's how I see it. I think it's time for a change. And I've said before, I think give Heinold the last 30 games and see if he can make any impact and then go from there.
Yeah, thanks for your call. To the point about the general manager, I understand it's a difficult job. I totally understand that. But I think that you can look to a few moves that David Poyle has made that has obviously put this team in a really difficult position. Signing the big contracts to Johansson and Duchesne, two guys that have not been delivering to the level that they need to be. If you are a top paid guy, if you are a top line player on this team, you need to be producing. And to the point of drafting, I get it. I understand it. It's hard. You got to wait a few years. It's a delayed return. But I looked at Ellie Tolvanen, for example. A guy who struggled in Nashville. You got nothing in return for him. And then he goes to Seattle and looks pretty darn good. That is an obvious demerit toward the general manager. And to the point of the coach, I would agree. I think that's part of the coach's job, is to get this team motivated, to get the most out of your top players. It's something that we commend John Hines for doing last year. So neither is completely innocent and neither is completely guilty. I think they each have blood on the hands of this season for the Predators.
I think that's fair. I think everybody, if you look back, you're going to have a lot of things you've done well, a lot of things that, it's Peter Laviolette said it to me a few years ago. I think it was when the team was struggling at some point, and I was like, well, you had the advantage in shots, you had the advantage in scoring chances, didn't? And he goes, he was frustrated, you could tell, but he goes, you know what? This is a results-based, it's a results-oriented business.
You got to get the results.
Mm-hmm. And hockey is such a tricky game because it's 82 games, and you can have stretches where just nothing goes right. You're going to go through some tough times. And then you have another team, and you mentioned Tolvanen, so let's talk Seattle. Everything has gone right. It's been unbelievable. Nobody predicted them to be doing this.
No.
But they got the mojo. It's going right, and it's to their credit. You ride that wave when you're that team. And there's still a long way to go and to see what Seattle is at the end of the year and what Ellie Tolvanen is for the rest of the year. And right now, that one really stings, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the time that they lost him, there was a lot that piled up. They had 3 or 4 guys get hurt. They had the McCarron thing. It complicated the salary cap, and they made a move that they really didn't want to make. But they had to be willing to walk away because they felt like they had given Ellie Tolvanen a lot of chances. And then, sure enough, boom, it happens. I have no doubt that Vegas was fine getting rid of Cody Glass, saying, you know what, we'll part with Cody Glass. Mm-hmm. He might do well. He's good, but we're ready to part with him. And Cody Glass, he's not doing what Tolvanen's doing, but Cody Glass's future is pretty good. I like where his career is going. So when you're struggling, the world looks like it's going to end, and then when you're riding that wave, it's so weird how it can turn. Like Dallas has been lost a couple times along the way these last couple years, but now everything seems to be coming together for them. So, I think I go back to what Ryan McDonough said. Everybody has got to be accountable for what they've done, right? And nobody's perfect, but this is where they are right now. So I think just spreading around. I just don't like it all being directed at one guy or another. It's everybody. It's players, it's coaches, GM. Everybody is involved in where they are right now.
Yeah, and I agree with that. But in this sport, unfortunately, that we can blame everybody, but ultimately someone has to pay the price. And it's not going to be the players. Now, if these guys, if they were much younger, and maybe you can move them and they would be an asset for someone else, but the way it seems, they're not an asset for anybody. At least you're not going to get back anything that's worth, worth you selling off some things.
Nobody wants to take on some of those
Yeah,
contracts.
so to me, it's unfortunately, it a lot. Even though we say that part of the blame should be the players, part of the blame should be front office, part of the blame should be the staff, and that's right. But ultimately, in this sport, it's all going to fall on the guy that's coaching them, whether we like it or not, whether we want to see him move or not. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Ricky is up next. What's up, Ricky?
Hey, guys, how are you?
Good.
Hey, Willie, quick question. The New York media has been all over Tanner Jeannot, especially Larry Brooks, who seems to be a Ranger insider. And the Rangers have Vitaly Kravtsov, a number 9 pick overall 3 years ago, who's not playing because he can't crack the top 6 for the New York Rangers, who are, on fire. And they keep linking them to Nashville. So my first part of my question is, has anybody talked about that? They make the exact same money to the dollar, and they're both restricted free agents at the end of the year. that's kind of a move I think Nashville needs to make, where they're losing some grit, but they're getting a top-line forward who's already proven himself internationally over at the KHL. And my second point I wanted to ask, to get rid of some of these contracts like Joey, you're going to have to take a team where you're going to have to make a deal, say a first-rounder, if they take Joey, and they get, they have to absorb one of the contracts to a team who still has a buyout available that could maybe cut these people, but we're going to have to pay to get rid of those guys.
That's your call, Ricky.
Ricky, I do think that was a discussion a lot, just the last part, when they were left, Johansson and Duchesne were left exposed in the expansion draft, right? It was pretty clear that Seattle was not going to take either one of them. They could have picked anybody that was not protected, right? They ended up picking Calle Jarnkrok. Mm-hmm. But the talk at the time was, okay, if you're going to unload one of these contracts, it's not just going to be somebody takes them in the draft or you trade them. It's going to be you trade them and something else for somebody to take that contract. That's probably what you would be looking at. And they chose to say, well, we're better off just trying to make it work with these guys. And to their credit, they heard that all summer. They came back last year and had very good years. This year hasn't gone quite that side. Now, it's interesting, the Kravtsov for Jeannot kind of, let's just throw that out there as a hypothetical. I don't know that much about Kravtsov. I've read about him. He's a high first-round pick. He's Russian. They've had a lot of inner fights, what to do with him. I think he went back to Russia one year. You'd have to really have some scouts that you trusted to say. So is that a gamble because you need offensive skill? You need high offensive skill? I think, like Elliot said yesterday, like you're fielding a lot of offers like this. Let's just say that's one of 24 that you're having with the different general managers on a particular day. And you weigh that. They are restricted free agents. So Tanner Jeannot makes about the league minimum this year. So he's going to need a new contract either way. He hasn't had a huge offensive year, nothing near what he had last year. So you could probably get him for a lot less than you would have if you had done this last year. So I think everything has got to be considered. It's interesting. Like, if I were the Rangers, I would love to have Tanner Jeannot. I can tell you that right now. He brings a lot to the table, even if he doesn't score. And I think that's what you got to weigh if you're Nashville. It's like, what is life like without Tanner Jeannot? Even though he hasn't scored a lot, he's such a team guy that he could help you win even if he doesn't score. And I do think in the future he will come back and score some. I don't know if he's ever going to score 24 again. That was probably a little overachieving. But I think he still could be a guy that scores 15 per year, something like that, between 10 and 15, and does a lot of other good things in other areas.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Ask D. Mace is coming up next. Get those questions in for D. Mace, and you will win a nice prize. I promise you it is a good one. So we'll get into those coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 1025-1063 The Game.
I think it's a really good move.
TD, it's never the offseason for ESPN's Teron Davenport.
I mean, that's something you obviously have to look at.
He's always talking about what's next for the Tennessee Titans.
Quarterback is a really important thing that they have to get determined.
Check out TD, Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, and Friday mornings at 8:30. Plus, the Talkin' with TD podcast.
Looking forward to that.
TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
You can trek to the savannas of Africa. Wait on the magic moment on the Great Plains of North America. Or find the thrills of Patagonia. You can book your dream hunt at the SEI Convention, coming to Nashville for the very first time. Come find your adventure February 22nd through February 25th. It's the ultimate sportsman's market, a place for every hunter. And this year, it's happening Music City style, with sold-out performances by Big and Rich and Leonard Skinner. But you can still find your outdoor adventure and rock out with the Frontman with Gretchen Wilson. It's a celebration of the outdoor lifestyle, February 22nd through February 25th. Come find your adventure. Just log on to safariclub.org. One more time, that's safariclub.org. This convention will sell out, so reserve your spot today. Come find your adventure.
Hey, it's Jared with my friends at Hiller. Kick off the new year with new upgrades for your home. This month, when you buy something you need for your home, Hiller will give you something you want. Pick your prize. Get a free 55-inch TV, Apple iPad, Solo Stove, or Nintendo Switch when you purchase new whole home generators or select new HVAC systems. Or a free 55-inch TV, Nintendo Switch, or Solo Stove when you upgrade to a new tankless water heater. There's no better time to take care of necessary home replacements, so call Hiller. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Mid-State Sports League spring registration is now open. With 7 different sports to choose from, there is something for every player. Join Nashville's largest sports leagues and register as a free agent or bring your own team. Spring registration is now open for softball, sand volleyball, soccer, kickball, flag football, and basketball. For a full list of adult and youth leagues, check out midstatesports.com. That's midstatesports.com. It's no debate. Play Mid-State.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492.
Quration CBD products. Quration began as our family's mission to provide the Nashville community with locally and organically sourced CBD products. We are passionate about providing high-quality CBD products for everyday use. Tinctures, topicals, and pet products too. We are a Pick 10 company. Our hemp is organically grown and produced in Nashville, Tennessee from sustainably sourced non-GMO genetics. All of our products are lab tested. Find all of our products at QuationCompany.com.
Saturday night.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
The Vanderbilt Commodores take on Auburn in a big SEC tilt at Memorial Gym. Coverage begins at 7 on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D. Mace.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willie, and
D. Mace.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D. Mace is brought to you by Curation CBD. Find their healing products at CurationCompany.com. Curation CBD products curated for life. Use promo code DMACE, D-M-A-S-E at CurationCompany.com for 25% off Curation CBD products. Get those questions in for D-Mace. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And the best question for D-Mace will win a pair of tickets to see Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and Garbage, both High Flying Birds and Garbage, at First Bank Amphitheater on June 25th. Let's get into it. Questions for D-Mace. First one for D-Mace is, D-Mace, if you are the general manager of the Titans, what position are you taking in the first round and with what pick?
Good question. I'm taking a quarterback. I'm moving up to get my quarterback. It starts and it ends with the quarterback. Rand Carthon said it, the quarterback. If you don't have that quarterback, that can, get you fired. In this league, if you don't have a quarterback, or if you try to get a quarterback and it doesn't work. We see what happened with the Indianapolis Colts. They went to 2 or 3 quarterbacks, and ultimately it got Frank Reich, fired in the end. So to me, you try to find a way, or you turn over every stone to try to figure out how to move up to try to get your quarterback. If you deem one of these 3 guys the guy you can that you believe can lead your franchise moving forward, because to me, the further and further you, the more time you let go without having that quarterback, then further and further you put yourself behind the teams that do have their quarterback, and we know who they are already in the AFC, and then teams that are in a position to potentially get their quarterback this year, Indianapolis, Houston. It's still going to take those teams a little bit of time because they have, just like the Titans, they have problems everywhere. But if you can get your quarterback, then there starts that stability being built within your program or your organization. So to me, I would try to move up. If I do believe one of these 3 quarterbacks are my guy, I try to move up and get him.
And do you believe that there's a way? Because I think so many times we've seen it just go get your quarterback and then build around him. Mm-hmm. Do you see there being a benefit to building around the quarterback and then going to get that guy? Or starting with the quarterback, if you find that guy, you get him, and then you build around him after that?
I mean, yeah, you can do it, but it has to be the right situation, an ideal situation, because every year someone's looking for a quarterback. There are 2 or 3 teams that are looking for their next quarterback every year. And with the Titans, if I am building around, say I don't have my quarterback, but I'm building around, well, you'll never be in a legitimate position to get the quarterback you want unless it falls to you like it fell to Green Bay. Mm-hmm. They were picking basically at the end of the bottom half of the first round, and lo and behold, they get Aaron Rodgers.
Fair point.
You know, that can happen. Or it can happen where you get a guy in the second round. But more times than not, if you want your franchise guy, it has to be in that first round. So you got to find a way to sort of maneuver and get your way up into that top 12 to potentially get it. Again, you can get it at number 23 or 24, but those are rare occasions that happens. You know, and I just think that in the Titans situation, if they're building, which they are going to do, they're going to build around the quarterback that's underneath center right now. You won't be in a position to get a top 15 pick because you're always going to be good enough to be outside of that, with the exception of this year.
So true.
Yeah.
Doug is up next. What's up, Doug?
I've got a question for not Coach Mason, not Player Mason, but Dr. Mason.
I have known to give some tips here and there,
Dr.
but go
Mason,
ahead.
I have a son and daughter like you,
mm-hmm.
so I know you know the perils of curfew and standards that have to be maintained to keep it equal living.
Mm-hmm.
We're at a point where maybe son is thinking I need a little bit more of a time versus daughter. Daughter hadn't said anything. Again, it's a difference of maturity. What says you? Do you fudge a little, or do you just say, hey, it will still stay the same?
That's a good question. Good question. Thank you. In our household, it was the same across the board. You know, it was, if you're supposed to be at home at 10 o'clock, your curfew is at 10, then you're gonna be at home at 10. That's the same for my son. If my daughter's curfew is at 10, your curfew is gonna be at 10. Now there may be some leeway with both of them depending on what they're doing. Like if they're at a friend's house or whatnot, then okay, we know where you are. You can stay up a little bit longer. We know the parent, so okay. As long as you get back home, let us know when you get ready to leave. Text us when you get ready to leave, and we know how far you are from us, so we know typically how long it should take you to get home. That's with both of them. But if we're talking that hardline rule, it's the same with the guy as it is with the girl. At least in our household, it was like, and obviously once they get to a little bit older, you stretch that curfew out a little bit longer. It was like 11 o'clock. But, my son is just like my daughter. Somebody will snatch him up just like they will snatch my daughter up. So it doesn't matter to me. And I don't want to come out looking for nobody, meaning not my kids. I don't want to come looking for the person that put them in that situation because it's not going to be good. So to me, both y'all, home at 11. That's the curfew. No, that's a boy, so he's just no. Because you know what? He's probably with somebody's daughter. So get your butt home. 11 o'clock. Get home. I don't want to be on
the receiving end of a D-May's butt whooping.
I feel like my little brother got off easier than I did, just being the younger brother. I feel like I paved the way a little bit. I loosened him up. He had a little more lax.
I totally got off way easier than my older sister. Like, she would be like, you're doing, like, you were allowed to do that? I was like, yeah, what you mean? What do you mean?
Oh, I say that about my younger brother and sister. Y'all got away with murder, boy, compared to us.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More of Ask D Mace, more of your questions for D Mace coming up next. It's Caroline, Willie, D Mace, 1025-1063 The Game.
185!
Every team needs a quarterback.
185!
That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Welcome to Smashville, home of your Nashville Predators. Join us at Bridgestone Arena Tuesday, February 21st for College Night with the University of Alabama as your Nashville Predators take on the Vancouver Canucks. Purchase your College Night tickets today at NashvillePredators.com/College Nights. That's NashvillePredators.com/College Nights for a Preds and Alabama co-branded hats. And don't miss February 28th as your Nashville Predators take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Secure tickets at NashvillePredators.com/tickets. Let's go, Preds!
Now is a fantastic time to sell in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. And no one has better intel than the Gary Ashton team. You may be wondering, what is this intel I keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel on where to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Everyone else is getting the same information and competing for the same properties. GaryAshton.com gives you the edge with the best real estate intel in Nashville. No one else even comes close. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate agent for the Preds. Get the confidence to sell your home and find your dream address without the stress. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today at 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
More than 95% of people incarcerated will come home like I did. I'm William Arnold, director of the new Tennessee Office of Reentry. When they come home, we want to be ready to help remove barriers to employment. It's okay if you've been incarcerated or justice involved. Help is available. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
They're insightful.
To me, you got a left guard situation you got to figure out.
Credible.
I trust this guy more than this guy.
But sometimes they just argue.
Why do you like the NFL playoffs? Those teams lose
I don't want college football to be the NFL.
When they get...
Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexroad are Robbie and Rexroad. Weekdays from 6 to 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willie, and D Mace.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
D Mace.
He played 15 years in the NFL.
A quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards.
Midfield, and there he goes. 80 yards for the touchdown.
And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask D Mace.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Caroline, Willie, and
D Mace.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Ask D-Mace is brought to you by Curation CBD. You can find their healing products at CurationCompany.com. Curation CBD products curated for life. Use promo code DMACE, D-M-A-S-E, at CurationCompany.com for 25% off Curation CBD products. Remember, the best question for D-Mace will win a pair of tickets to see Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds and Garbage at First Bank Amphitheater on June 25th. Let's get back into it. Questions for D-Mace. One texter texts in. Asks D-Mace, when a quarterback hits a receiver in stride downfield, how much of that is the quarterback? How much of that is the receiver adjusting to the ball?
I think it's a little bit of both. The timing of the route, depending on, what route it is, and it's typically a post, a corner, or a go route if you're hitting in stride, or, you run those deep end routes and you hit a guy on stride. There's nothing better for a receiver when you hit him in stride and he can still run. Oh man, that feeling, it's like the best. It's the best feeling ever. It's kind of like, I guess Willie, you can relate to this, like when you're on a fast break and that guy just gets you the ball as you're going and you just lay it up nicely or dunk. Yeah. I'm not gonna say you dunked, Willie.
I dunked a few.
You dunked a few.
And
in college, I'm saying in college. I'm not in high school. I know you dunked in high school.
In high school, I had to pull out the old VHS tape in high school.
But there's not the feeling is great when you can get that ball in stride. So it's a bit of both. But that's why in the highest league, which is the NFL, you have to throw guys open instead of throwing it to them, so it gives them an opportunity to catch the ball and run.
That was a good one. Here's another one. My birthday is a day before Valentine's Day. How do I get my wife to stop stacking my birthday and Valentine's Day present into one?
Yeah.
He feels like he's getting shortchanged. Yeah.
Well, it's not your wife's fault. Your parents chose to do what they did, and then 9 months later, you were born the day before Thanksgiving.
Have
the
a
day before
different
Valentine's.
birthday. That's on you, brother.
Exactly. She can't do anything about that. I'm sorry, man. I can try to be on your side, but I got to be truthful to myself. Hey, it's not her fault.
That's like whenever you're born on or around Christmas.
Yeah.
You just you
it's
get
just like,
half the number of presents.
It's like, gosh,
tough,
man. So you just got to deal with it, for the remainder of you guys' marriage, which I hope will be many, 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 many years.
Tom is up next with a question for D Mace. What's up, Tom?
Hi, Mace.
What's going on?
Do you have any memories of playing against Bill Romanowski, and do you think he should be in the Hall of Fame since he's got a few Super Bowl rings? Take care.
Thank you. Yeah. Bill wasn't the favorite of a lot of people across the NFL.
Putting it kindly.
Yeah, that's putting it kindly. He did win a few Super Bowls. I think he won one with Denver, or he won two. He won both of them with Denver, right? I believe.
I think that's right. 49er as well for a while. I'll take a look.
That might have been toward the end of his career.
He was on that Raiders team that you guys played in the AFC
playoffs.
Championship
So he
game.
went to the Super Bowl with the Raiders, but they ultimately lost. But he won some Super Bowls, I believe, with Denver. He won both of his Super Bowls with Denver. Should it be in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I didn't follow his stats, that often, or if ever. But he was one of those old school players, man, and he was down and dirty. And he crossed the line a few times.
And I think the crossing the line, he got caught up in that Balco.
Yeah,
thing.
he got caught up in that
probably
steroid
hurts
thing.
his chances
to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but he did win. He won the 2 Super Bowls with Denver. Mm-hmm. He won 2 with the 49ers.
Oh, so he's won 4
rings.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know he was on those 49ers teams.
He came into the league with San Fran towards, right as Joe Montana was at his peak, and then he also played with Philadelphia in between San Francisco and Denver. So he's some good teams.
Yeah, but I think that Balco thing will, probably keep him out of any consideration of the Hall of Fame because his name doesn't even come up.
Not really.
Even with nominees, his names don't even come up. So.
Joel is up next with a question for D-Mace. What's up, Joel?
Yes. Yesterday, Chase was really talking about Hendon Hooker. Now, I feel like Hendon Hooker is a Cam Newton-type player, so I compared Newton's stats to Tannehill, and they're very comparable. Do you think maybe taking Hooker in the second, possibly third round, even though we already have Malik Willis, those kind of stats that we get from Tannehill and Newton for about 10 to 12 years, both of them, would that be worth it? Thank you.
If Hendon Hooker wouldn't be a bad pick, but you would have to, and he's an older player, you would have to be willing to, one, wait until he gets fully healthy. So you're talking about potentially his rookie year will be gone. He'll just be sitting rehabbing. And then, after that year, then the second year, you have to get him in a game, see how he's processing everything, and then let him determine whether, because ultimately that's what it is, the player determining whether you are a starter, a backup, or a guy that needs to not be on this team. I think Hendon Hooker is a really good quarterback. And it's unfortunate that he got hurt.
Yeah. When he got hurt.
Exactly. When he got hurt. I think he would have been a first-round pick. But if he's sitting there, in the third round, third round, then yeah. If you've done your homework on him and you feel that, he's a sort of a bargain pick in a sense, then yeah, you pick him because he is a good quarterback. And once he rehabs and get himself back going, I think he's going to help a franchise. So if the Titans feel they can get him and let him sit for a year or two and then, let him go, then I would make that move to get him.
I think one of my bigger questions about Hendon Hooker is, was it the Heupel system or was it Hendon Hooker? And maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. Maybe it was both.
Yeah.
Because I look at Josh Heupel at UCF, and those UCF teams only got worse, only had worse records each year he was there. And then I look at Hendon Hooker, and he struggled to see the field at Virginia Tech. So it's like, both of these systems and the quarterback that were struggling, and then they came together, and it brought Tennessee to the top of college football. So I don't know the answer to that question, but Hendon Hooker is an incredibly intelligent and smart quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy. He's a good player.
Yeah, so he's probably, other than Richardson from Florida, he's probably the most intriguing guy because you saw what he did, but then you look at, well, he left Virginia Tech and he wasn't, prosperous there. He come here, and then all of a sudden he just, comes out of nowhere and plays exceptionally well. At one point, he was the Heisman favorite, and then he gets hurt. So it's just unfortunate he got hurt, but I think he will be a player in this league. It just depends on, a team bringing him along the right way.
That was Ask D Mace. Appreciate you sending those questions in. We'll continue to get in your thoughts as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. And hey, be caller 3 now for your opportunity to win a pair of tickets to see the Nashville Predators take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Caller 3 now. Caroline, Billy, D Mace, 1025, 1063 The Game.
You watch the game.
Haskins again doesn't get it. Jaguars have won the AFC South.
We talk the game.
The offensive side of the football for the Titans, who should be back next season.
We are the game. Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, you think mortgage rates are still super high? Well, think again. Rates have plummeted to a 5-month low. Hey, Willie Donick here. Call my friends at Loan Pronto now to see how low rates are. It may be time to do that refinance you've been putting off, or time to get back to house hunting. If you're like a lot of people, you've got way too much credit card debt right now, and you're getting fleeced with 20+% interest charges every month, or maybe your current home rate is over 6%. So if that applies to any of you, listen, you can get a quick, easy refi at Loan Pronto. Wipe out all those cards. Close in about 14 days and cut your overall expenses by $500 a month or more. How does that sound to you? Right now, Loan Pronto is doing refis with APRs in the 4s. So call now to take advantage of this big rate drop. Get those credit cards to zero. Start that home improvement project, or get out of that 7% loan you were forced into last year. Here's the phone number, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Your Game Center update.
The Nashville Predators were shut out 5-0 last night by the Boston Bruins, and goaltender Jeremy Swayman picked up his second consecutive shutout versus Nashville. And after the game, defenseman Ryan McDonough weighed in on his team's execution.
There's a willingness and a price to pay, if you want to win in this league, and certainly that team was doing it consistently throughout the game. Just being disciplined, putting pucks behind us, wearing us down that way, taking what's given if there was an opportunity on odd man, and certainly, didn't give us anything for free.
Nashville is back in action tomorrow against the Florida Panthers at 1 p.m., and then will play at Minnesota on Sunday. And Ian Rappaport reports that the Commanders are interested in offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy and have mutual interest, and it's trending in the right direction toward him being named their next coordinator. And free agent quarterback Derek Carr is on another visit this offseason. Mike Garafolo reports that Carr is visiting with the New York Jets and continues to get a feel for where he'll sign this offseason. I'm Nick Keyser for 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 1063.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Caroline, Willie, and D. Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willie, D. Mace, 1025, 1063 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook Sports. And we had a caller at Ask T. Mace bring up a very interesting point, and it's something that I've heard Jared talk about this week. It's something that I've heard Chase and Michelle talk about this week, and it's about the Titans' potential pursuit of Hendon Hooker. And it's something that we talked about yesterday, that history would show that picking your future quarterback, your franchise quarterback first overall in the draft, it is more likely than not that that's not going to be your guy. You know, if you looked at it in the last 20 years, there are two quarterbacks taken first overall that have won Super Bowls. One being Matthew Stafford, one being, I have it written down in my notes, I don't know the other one off the top of my head. And none of those were with the team that drafted them. Joe Burrow, probably will win a Super Bowl with the Bengals, hasn't yet. Trevor Lawrence, we'll see about him. But there are so few starting quarterbacks in the league now, really, that were taken first overall. Trevor Lawrence being one of them, Joe Burrow being one of them, Matthew Stafford being one of them. But if you look at some of the top quarterbacks in the league, Patrick Mahomes taken 10th overall, Aaron Rodgers taken at the bottom of the first round, Josh Allen taken in the top of the middle of the first round, and then you got Jalen Hurts taken in the second round. You got Dak Prescott taken in the fourth, Lamar Jackson taken at the bottom of the first round. So many starting quarterbacks that are some of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, they weren't taken first overall. So few quarterbacks that have won Super Bowls were the first overall quarterbacks. So we kind of kicked around the idea, could the Titans' future quarterback be there sitting at 11? And Hendon Hooker could be one of those quarterbacks that could be available to you at 11. Now, are you going to use your first-round pick, your 11th overall pick, the best pick that the Titans have had in quite some time, on a quarterback that's not going to be able to help you until at least 2024, of course, coming off of the ACL tear? And I don't know the answer to that question.
Do we think that Hendon Hooker could rise that high? Is he a first-round pick?
No, he's not.
Yeah.
I don't think that he was a first-round pick pre-ACL tear. I think he could have been like a fringe first-round, second-round guy, and then you add the ACL on top of it. But also, the Titans don't need a quarterback this year. The Titans could afford to have Hendon Hooker sit on the bench. You start Ryan Tannehill. Hendon Hooker heals. He learns the system. He could be back in 2024. I'm just saying, if the Titans do believe in Hendon Hooker, if they look at Hendon Hooker and say that is our quarterback of the future, why not spend a first-round pick on him?
Well, I wouldn't go first round for him. But it is an interesting question with a guy like Hendon Hooker, who just turned 25 last month. So he is an example of, with the COVID and with the way college sports are going this year, I think a lot of kids try to delay. There's this thing called reclassification while you're still in high school. A lot of guys do that.
Get in early.
So you tend to be a little older in college. And I wonder how that works with NFL scouts. Like, much has been made of Lamar Jackson is still 25 years old.
Which is crazy.
And he is just a few months older than a lot of really high-end college quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett and Hooker, right? So how does that equate for scouts? Like in baseball, something that used to happen a lot way back when I was playing that they've got corrected to a point now is a lot of Latin players would feel like they were much more marketable if they fibbed on their age by a couple of years, right? Not by 5 years or 10, but if you told everybody that you were 20 as opposed to 22, then you're like, hey, this guy still got some upside. He's only 20. But in reality, he was 22. We've seen a couple quarterbacks in the NFL, Brandon Weeden, and a guy that I was in the minor league baseball system with, Chris Wenke, who won a Heisman Trophy for Florida State.
When he was like 50.
He was 20. He was 28. He was 28 years old.
So wild.
Same thing with Brandon Weeden. So Brandon Weeden was 28 and had a great year for Oklahoma State. Was a first-round pick for the Browns, but he was one of the long list of failed Browns quarterbacks. And so what is your upside when you have excelled at the level that Hendon Hooker has excelled at, but you're older? I just wonder how scouts try to equate that when they evaluate him. So to me, I don't see how he would go in the first round, but is a mid-round pick, like you were saying, Derek, if you got 5 good years out of him, that'd be still really good, even though he's starting at a later age.
Yeah, I think had he not gotten injured, I think he would have been a first-round talent, and somebody would have possibly taken him at the end of the first round. He's just, whether we believe it's the offense or whatnot, he still had to orchestrate the offense.
Totally.
He still was, an efficient quarterback. He completed 70% of his passes, I believe. His touchdown to interception ratio was off the charts. So he always seemed to make the right decision. And that goes a long way. His football IQ seemed to be high. And these are all the things that we talk about when trying to project a quarterback: arm strength, quarterback QB IQ, athleticism, all this other stuff. And is he the most athletic quarterback out there? No, because there are a lot of times where he ran and it was like, man, I think he's, and it's not a knock. I think he's just saying his athleticism is good. It's not great. Yeah, he's a mobile quarterback that can get outside the pocket, extend the play.
Like, I saw somebody compare him to Lamar Jackson.
No, he's
I was like,
not.
That is so off base. That's not the kind of quarterback that he is.
Have you seen Lamar Jackson play in college and in the pros? Hendon Hooker is nowhere near that when it comes to athleticism.
And Lamar Jackson isn't airing the ball out 65 yards downfield.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a certain amount to be said about getting it done at the level that Hendon Hooker got it done at.
And let's not forget that this offense looked completely different when Joe Milton was the starter.
Yes.
Yeah. So
he lost to Pitt, and then Hendon Hooker's named the starter, and now they're the number 1 team in the country at one point.
Regardless of the system and everything like that, you got to give him some credit for making it work. But it is interesting. Like, I just looked at the birthdays. Malik Willis is a full year younger than Hendon Hooker. So, again, how does that work for a scout? Like, I know how the baseball thinking goes. It's like, well, this guy's still developing. But this is, again, we're talking about a game where you develop people in the minors. You can give them time in the minors to let them work their way through, and then you decide if the guy can play or not. In football, you kind of have to make the decision, especially at quarterback. You're only playing one person. It's hard to develop, and you don't have a minor league team to put these guys on. So at 24, it's like you gotta get there, and you got to get there quick. We have all our questions now about Malik Willis, and he's still a year younger than Hendon Hooker.
You're right, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. I think he still will get drafted in the first round. Hendon Hooker. I think it will be in the bottom. I think a team at the bottom of the draft in the first round, they may need a quarterback potentially, or they're looking further down the road. Like, okay, maybe in about 3 years or 2 years we're gonna need a quarterback. I think they're going to draft him because minus the injury, he has everything that you want in a quarterback. He has it. He has the arm strength. He has the mobility. More importantly, he has the quarterback IQ. He's a winner. He's a leader. He has everything that you would want in a quarterback. The only knock right now is two things: his age and his injury.
Why do you think even before the injury, middle of the season when Hendon Hooker's balling out, Tennessee's undefeated, why do you think even then before the injury, Hendon Hooker was still projected as late first round, probably a second round pick?
Because of the system.
You think?
Because, the system that they play in. But again, you said it. You put Joe Milton in that system.
Looks totally different.
It looks totally different. The system doesn't operate the way it does when Hendon Hooker is underneath center. When Hendon Hooker is underneath center, that offense ran. It just was like a machine. Mm-hmm. They knew exactly what to do. He knew what to do. He called out the plays. He read the defenses. He knew where to go with the ball. When Joe Milton got in there, it seemed like that whole offense took a step back. So to me, I'm not worried about, the system, because I've seen two guys in that system, and one flourished and the other was like, it was okay. Yeah, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. The other knock will be, he didn't underneath center. Well, how many quarterbacks get underneath center nowadays?
A lot less than it used to be.
Yeah. So are you gonna knock? Are you gonna knock? Bryce Young for that? Are you gonna knock C.J. Stroud for that? No, you're gonna still draft him. Mm-hmm. That ain't gonna be he's never been under center. Hendon Hooker may not have been under center all the time, but I'm sure he's played underneath center before, and he can do it. And he's going to put in the work that it takes to take snaps from underneath center. The NFL is going, they do a lot of plays where you're not underneath center. So that shouldn't even be the question anymore. Like, that shouldn't even be a critique of a guy that has everything else, but then, he's never been under center. Have you watched NFL games? A lot of these guys are not underneath center either.
Well, I think the fact is, too, you better make it work if you're a pro scout of figuring out who can play under center, because so many college quarterbacks grow up playing from the shotgun.
Exactly.
It's just the way football is played now.
That could be the knock on every quarterback that comes out for the next 15 to 20 years.
And it's a fair knock.
Yeah.
But can you scout it to say, that guy can develop into more of a pro-style offense?
Or do you just run as a pro-style offense a little more from the shotgun?
Maybe so. And it really is. It's interesting to see the trickle-up effect of the college game to the pro game, because you really start to see these trends happen in college, and then it graduates to the pros. You start in college as a very, very pass-heavy system, and then you kind of see it go up to the NFL level. But my point about Hendon Hooker, very fair point. Mm-hmm. He executes Josh Heupel's system much better than Joe Milton did. Mm-hmm. But is that because he's a better quarterback for the system, or does that mean that he's just a better quarterback overall? I do think he's a better quarterback overall.
I just think he's a better quarterback overall.
Does he thrive in that system, which isn't a pro-style system?
If I'm ranking quarterbacks, take away the injury, take away the age and the injury. If I'm ranking these quarterbacks, then to me, he would be ahead of Will Levis. And as much as I like C.J. Stroud, he did shrink a few times.
Yes.
He did shrink a few times in some games.
Penn State, Northwestern.
Exactly. So
Michigan.
I'm putting Hendon Hooker closer to C.J. Stroud. Now, nobody's Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young hit the knock on Bryce. He's too small. You can't touch quarterbacks in this league no more. So if he's not 105 pounds, we're good, and he's 5'11". Oh, well, so what?
Bryce Young is so good.
Is he a difference maker? Is he a game changer? Is he a leader? Is he a winner? Oh, he checks all of those boxes. Does he have the arm strength? He checks all of those boxes. I don't want to hear about he only weighs, 210 pounds and is 5'11". You can't touch him anymore.
But that's why I come back to the age question. Bryce Young is 21.
Mm-hmm.
Hendon Hooker's 24. So
Yeah.
how do scouts
How do
weigh
they look at
that?
that?
So I don't know the answer. Like some scouts may feel different than others on it. I just know in baseball that would be a big thing.
And that's a really tough thing if you do decide to draft Hendon Hooker. He'll be almost 30, if not 30, by the time that you need to decide what you want to do with his next
With his
contract.
second contract, yep.
And 30 is kind of the line of demarcation of, okay, what have you done so far in your career? And that's a tough decision to make, to decide to pay a quarterback $40 or $50
But you just
million
pay him as such.
if he's 30 years old.
If he's playing great, he's 30, then you sign him. You don't worry about it,
That's fair. D-Mace, if you're the Titans at 11, do you take Hendon Hooker?
No, because he's injured, and they have pressing needs. They have needs that guys need to be on the field this year. If I can parlay it into 2 picks, like somehow get 2 first-rounders, which won't happen, then he would be my later round pick. Or, hell, if he's sitting there in the second round and I got him ranked higher than the players that are on the board, then we need to talk as a ball club. Like Vrabel, Rand, everybody needs to talk and say, listen, we got an opportunity to get our quarterback. Should we take him, knowing that he's injured and he won't play into the next following year? Should we take him? I don't know.
Fair question to ask. It's a tough question that they're going to have to answer. And I see your questions, your calls, your texts on this. We'll get into those. Coming up next, Caroline, Willie, D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Football and Nashville sports.
They can be a fully formed model of what they're going to be offensively moving forward.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company.
You don't know what's going to happen with the roster or the team.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
This is a good lesson about sports and what we think and what actually happens.
Chad Withrow on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hi, this is NFL alumni Tennessee chapter president and former All-Pro linebacker Al Smith. On the field, I always wore a helmet and pads to make sure I was protected. Life is no different. That's why I got vaccinated and boosted against COVID-19. Protection keeps you in the game. Talk to your doctor. Get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear up, Tennessee. Protect yourself, your family, and others against COVID-19 today.
More information at nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
Yes! Hey, Jim, everything okay? Did you see that catch?
No. Yeah, I'm happy about the touchdown. Just things are kind of off with me and Tiffany.
Hey, what's going on?
It's a little embarrassing, but I'm not making it happen in the bedroom. I don't know what's going on with me. And now Tiffany's upset. She thinks I'm not attracted to her anymore.
Hey, I had the same problem. But, man, I found a secret.
Oh, yeah?
I started going to the Tennessee Men's Clinic for treatments, and boom, our sex life improved. Plus, I started taking testosterone, and I've got loads more energy.
Tell me more. Maybe it'll work for me.
The people at Tennessee Men's Clinic are low testosterone and ED specialists with multiple treatment options. It definitely helped me. And I got to tell you, now I can go the distance every time. Heather says I'm better than ever.
Hey, I'm in. What's their contact info?
You can book appointments online or just give them a call.
Great. Thanks, man. Hey, could you move away from the TV? You can't see.
Your first visit to the Tennessee Men's Clinic is only $99. Book your appointment today. Call 615-208-9090 or book online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Visit our website to learn more, including side effects, treatments extra. Results vary.
Under new ownership, Duck River Raceway Park is celebrating their 50th anniversary in 2023 with its biggest event of the year, Winterfest. This family-friendly event will feature over 200 cars in a quarter-mile dirt track in Wheel, Tennessee, 15 minutes from Henry Horton State Park, only an hour south from downtown Nashville. Come enjoy food, good people, and great racing. This Saturday, February 18th and Sunday the 19th. Check out tickets and more at duckriverracewaypark.com.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
I agree. I have a hard time counting him out. But because of the injury, and he's been hurt before. He was hurt at Virginia Tech as well.
I think there's some risk there is what I would say. So I'm more sold on Hendon Hooker than I am on some of these other guys, to be honest. I mean, I think Bryce Young's really good. I told you my concerns on him are size. C.J. Stroud, I would like to see more film. I probably need to study him a little closer. What he did against Georgia in the bowl game really caught my attention, and what he did last year in the Rose Bowl caught my attention. But in the Big Ten, with the group of receivers that he's had over the course of his career, I'd like to think maybe you and I could put up some pretty significant numbers. But Hendon Hooker's an intrigue to me. Anthony Richardson's a freak athlete. Coached against Anthony Richardson this year. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic.
I know, but your team wasn't very good, and you guys held him in check pretty well.
I agree. I think each of these guys has warts. I don't think there's a surefire guy. I think what Hendon Hooker did. Now let's keep this in mind. When Hendon Hooker transferred to Tennessee, he was not the starter.
No.
He came in and he competed with Joe Milton, and he beat Joe Milton out, or perhaps Joe Milton lost the job in some way, shape, or form. But and what he's done over the last 2 years for Coach Heupel and the Vols has been off the charts. And he's a great story, and he's a unique athlete who can throw the deep ball. He's a pretty accurate thrower. He can make plays with his feet. He can make plays with his arm. And to me, I think the injury will prevent him, obviously, from participating in a lot of things he needs to participating in draft, leading up to the draft. But by all accounts, when he went to the Senior Bowl, was impressive in meetings, impressive with how he handled himself. So I think although he won't be maybe that first-round guy, I think he's someone that I think all 32 teams have on their radar for, hey, let's take a chance on this guy in round 2, round 3. I don't think he's going to last through the second round or the first 100 picks in the draft.
There you go. That was Coach Bob Shoop on Stillman & Company earlier this week on Hendon Hooker. And I think the Titans, I've said this before, I think the Titans are going into the season with a really great opportunity at quarterback and also with a really scary path at quarterback, because the Titans have the privilege of having a starting quarterback under contract. That's a pretty solid starting quarterback in the National Football League. With that being said, there's no clear path to the next guy if and when they do decide to move on from Ryan Tannehill. So if the Titans did want to, like Bob Shoop said, take a potential risk on Hendon Hooker, considering that he will be 26 years old whenever he's ready to play. He's 25 now. He'll most likely sit for this season given the ACL. And also, given the ACL that he is injured, it is inevitably a risk. And I think that the question surrounding Hendon Hooker, at least for me, was it Hendon Hooker? Or was it the system? Was it something kind of in the middle of those two? So inevitably, Hendon Hooker is going to be a risk. But the Titans can't afford to take that risk. Because if they do draft Hendon Hooker, I don't believe that they would draft him to be their starting quarterback in 2023. That wouldn't be very smart. There are a whole lot of teams that do need to draft their starting quarterback for 2023. The Titans have the luxury of being able to sit back and say, hey, we can look for our potential quarterback of the future, like what they did with Malik Willis. If he's our quarterback of the future and we found him in the third round, great, we'll look like geniuses. If he's not our quarterback of the future, which it's looking like he most likely is not going to be your quarterback of the future, then it was a third-round pick. No harm, no foul.
Yeah, but I understand that point, but you don't want to, and I know Rand don't want to get into the business of drafting a guy in the third round, and then if he doesn't work out, say, oh, well, it's just a third-round pick. No, those picks eventually add up. And these are guys in that first three or four rounds. These are guys that you are projecting will help your team in some form or fashion, whether it be starters, backups, special teams guys. That first 3 or 4 rounds, those are the guys that are ultimately going to build your team, and even in the 5th round at times. But Coach Shoop, he was right. I mean, when you look at this list of quarterbacks, the only guy that I have no questions about is Bryce Young. That's the only guy I have no questions about. He's shown me. If you want to question his size, go ahead. But everything else he's shown me, I don't need to. He's played big against big competition. He's come back off an injury. He's willed his team to win by himself. Guys were dropping passes. He still willed his team to win.
He single-handedly won that Texas game.
Absolutely. And he almost won the UT game by himself. Damn near.
Almost won the LSU game by himself.
So there's no question, at least for me, I have about Bryce Young. Now, they're going to try to knock him. That's just how, scouts are and that's how the draft process is. They're going to praise you on one hand and then they're going to knock you down on the other. But Hendon Hooker is the guy that beside Bryce Young, that next 2 or 3 guys, they're all bunched up to me, whether it be C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, or Hendon Hooker. Those guys, to me, there's not much separating those 4, other than age and probably injury. But to me, Hendon Hooker has shown everything that you want to see from a quarterback. In the SEC, the toughest division, and I hate to say it because I'm a Big Ten guy, but the toughest division in college football is the SEC, and he proved that he can stand tall, next to any quarterback, and that's including Bryce Young, and he stood tall until he got injured. So if you're going to draft him, prior to the injury, I believed he was a first-round pick, a top 15 pick. After the injury, I still think he's a late first rounder into the second round. If he gets past the second round, then the Tennessee Titans need to think seriously about either moving up to get him, or if he lands right at your spot, they drafted him.
This is another thing that a talent evaluator has to weigh. I brought up the age thing. Hooker's older. He's 24, and as Bob Shoop just pointed out, he wasn't the starter until there was an injury to open it up. He had already played for a long time at Virginia Tech. He wasn't really on the radar for a long time, even though he was sort of a draft eligible. When he was the age that Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are right now, he was still in the middle, kind of in the middle of this saga that he was in for a long time. He was in college for a long time, right? The other thing that I think is interesting for an evaluator, we watch SEC football backwards and forwards. We know who the star players were. But a talent evaluator has got to say, okay, dominant player in the SEC, let's take him, and let's weigh that against somebody like Josh Allen, who was playing at Wyoming, right? And we have to decide, okay, what does that mean? The level of competition he's facing each week and excelling at that competition. Well, what do the players around him have to do? That's a really tricky thing, right? That's an inexact science. I remember thinking about that a lot. Jay Cutler versus Vince Young versus Matt Leinart. Remember that unbelievable classic championship game? USC with Matt Leinart and all the great players on that team. Vince Young for Texas. Young. Those guys were all coming out, and we all knew. Best
games of all time.
And we all knew that the Titans were going to take a quarterback because they were moving on from Steve McNair, or at least they knew that time was near. And Jay Cutler was also in the backyard playing for a poor Vanderbilt team, right, and trying to elevate them, almost getting them to a bowl game, beating a few teams that they shouldn't have beaten. You see the talent, but what he had around him was not nearly close. So weighing all that, Jay Cutler was probably the best of the 3. Not that Jay Cutler lit the world on fire, but he played a lot longer than Vince Young, played way longer than Matt Leinart. But
none of those
Matt
quarterbacks came to
Leinart
fruition.
and Vince Young were Heisman Trophy kind of guys lighting the world on fire. It didn't mean they were going to be better pro quarterbacks. So how you do in the SEC means something for sure, but what does it mean? That's where the scouts really earn their money.
Well, that's a decision that the 49ers made. They went with an FCS Trey Lance over a national champion Alabama quarterback Mac Jones.
Yes.
So that is something tough that you have to weigh, because you might look lights out in the SEC. That doesn't always translate. It could mean that it does translate. We've seen plenty of SEC quarterbacks, and ACC even, Big Ten quarterbacks excel in the NFL. We've seen a lot of no-name players excel in the NFL beyond the quarterback position. I don't even know where Aaron Rodgers went to school. He went to Cal, Berkeley?
Yeah.
To Cal, not a powerhouse program. I guess it was at the time, more so than it is now. Trey Lance, another one, an FCS program. Jimmy Garoppolo went to Eastern Illinois, Western Illinois?
Eastern Illinois.
Some directional Illinois school. So it's not always indicative of that, and that's why we have talent evaluators.
Well, you got to project. It's not. It does have something to do with the conference that you play in, because you're going to play, like if you're playing in the SEC, you're going to play against stiff competition every week. But it's also, if you're not playing the SEC, or you're not playing in the Big Ten, or Pac-12, Big East, if you're playing in some other conference, it's what does the talent project to be, like for a quarterback. If you're looking at a Trey Lance, he's played in a lower level, but what does did he dominate that lower level for one? And if he did, what does that translate into in the NFL? Like if he, if you draft a guy and you're looking at him, he doesn't dominate the FBS, then you have some questions. Like, he has a big arm. Yeah, it is. But he didn't even dominate, his conference, and it was a lower conference.
Imagine Floyd Reese evaluating Steve McNair at Alcorn State.
But he dominated.
He absolutely dominated. But he also had to figure out, okay, how does this translate at the
Into
next
the
level?
NFL.
They made the right choice, though.
Exactly.
And that's why it's so interesting to me why Will Levis, like even Mel Kiper thinks that he's going to be the first overall pick. Well, Will Levis wasn't anything special. Kentucky wasn't anything special in the SEC, so I think it's interesting. Sometimes you can come from a very unspecial program in a very special conference and still emerge as maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the bunch. I see a bunch of your phones lining up. We've got Preds thoughts. We've got draft thoughts. We've got Hendon Hooker thoughts. We are into all of that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Caroline Willie D. Mace 1025, 106.3 The Game.
Saturday.
The score! Robin Yossi. Sissons put it away.
The Predators wrap up their homestand against the Florida Panthers. Pre-game at 12. Puck drop at 1 on your home for Nashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Now is a fantastic time to sell in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. And no one has better intel than the Gary Ashton team. You may be wondering, what is this intel I keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel on where to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Everyone else is getting the same information and competing for the same properties. GaryAshton.com gives you the edge with the best real estate intel in Nashville. No one else even comes close. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate agent for the Preds. Get the confidence to sell your home and find your dream address without the stress. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today at 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
Okay, let's tell you about Lee Company, 615-567-1000. Official sponsor of our pregame coverage here on 102.5 The Game for the Nashville Predators, who resume play tomorrow afternoon against the Florida Panthers. Meanwhile, Lee Company serving people. You'll see them all over the place. The trucks with the Lee Company logo, you'll see them buzzing around town, helping people out with general maintenance, with, of course, checking your heating unit. And, yeah, we had to kick up the heat a little bit more last night with the weather finally getting cold again. Let's hope we get back to those warm days here soon. And with that in mind, make sure your air conditioning unit gets checked here. It would be a smart move for you. Check the air conditioning system before you start using the unit every day during those hot summer months. 615-567-1000 or LeeCompany.com. Lee Company is ready for you, and even ask about their home maintenance plan where you get the year-round coverage. LeeCompany.com and reach them at 615-567-1000.
Moving isn't fun and can be expensive. With this week's Nashville's Best Deal, save on your next move with Black Tie Moving. Enjoy red carpet treatment along with professional pad wrapping. They will assemble and disassemble your items and save you time. Black Tie delivers a world-class packing service and offers long-distance and local moving options. Right now, get $200 off a half-day move for just $75 or $400 off a full-day move for $150 at thegamenashville.com/deals.
Do you own or operate a diverse small business? Expand your customer reach and access local procurement decision makers at the Nashville Area Chamber's Supplier Diversity Fair, sponsored by Truist. All diverse small businesses are invited. The fair begins at 8:30 a.m. on Tuesday, February 28th at City Winery. Visit NashvilleChamber.com/events to register. That's NashvilleChamber.com/events. See you on the 28th at City Winery.
The NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Green flag in the air, and he lets it fly, and we are underway.
Is back at Daytona International Speedway.
Trouble further back. Jordan Anderson Racing's Wyatt Snyder up and into the wall.
For another season of intense racing action.
Austin Hill has won at Daytona.
It's the beef. It's What's for Dinner 300.
Coverage begins at 4 on 102.5 The Game.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willie, D. Mays, 1025, 1063, The Game and The Game Nashville app. Unless you two have thoughts?
Let's go to the phone.
To the phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jeff from Tennessee texts in and says, why would you want Ryan Tannehill to teach Hendon Hooker anything? That is absurd. Look how much Malik Willis learned on the Tannehill. Zero, like Tannehill says, I'm not here to teach other people doing my job. Why would you want Hendon Hooker to learn from Ryan Tannehill? Because Ryan Tannehill has been a starting quarterback in this league for 10 plus years. That's why. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Ryan Tannehill. I've said it. I don't think that he's the quarterback that can get you to a Super Bowl. I don't think he's the kind of quarterback that can elevate the rest of your team. But Ryan Tannehill has so much experience. Ryan Tannehill is a certified starter in the National Football League. Let's not act like he has nothing to offer here.
Well, it wouldn't be, and I get that part. And everybody was in uproar when Ryan Tannehill said what he said.
Just had that flashback.
Exactly. And, I was
Mentor
I was sort of like, man, you can't say that. I mean, you have to be that mentor, whether you want to be or not in this league. You just, especially at the quarterback position, they bring in another quarterback in. But
I understood what he meant.
yeah, I know what he meant.
It sounded bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Right. And my point at the time was like a 20-minute press conference.
Yeah.
And he said the one wrong thing, and everybody was talking about.
But it's not up to Ryan Tannehill to teach Hendon Hooker everything about the NFL. Yeah, he's going to give him, little nuances and, hey, you might want to throw it here, instead of there. Just look, because when you come back to the sideline, those are the things you're talking about, especially in preseason. But it's up to Charles London to, if indeed they do draft Hendon Hooker, and I've been saying this for forever. Like, listen, I'm not putting the development of the backup quarterbacks. I'm putting on the quarterback coach, because you are there to make sure these guys have everything that they need, that they're learning the way that they need to learn, that when I put them in the game, they're ready to go, or they're making progress, and we are seeing it. That's why, for the last year, I've been screaming like, listen, you fired these other two coaches. What's up with the quarterbacks coach? Because the quarterbacks y'all have drafted, y'all ain't developing them. Mm-hmm. And what we seen from Malik Willis, you damn sure ain't developing him. And you got rid of Woodside because you felt that Malik Willis was better. So that tells me you didn't develop Woodside the way you needed to develop him. So we need to get somebody in here that can help develop quarterbacks. So they went and got Charles London. Now he's the quarterbacks coach. So it's going to be up to Charles London to develop the quarterbacks. And from, we've talked to TD, and he said down at the Senior Bowl, Charles London and Hendon Hooker, it seemed like they had a good relationship. Even though Hendon Hooker wasn't physically able to do anything, he still was in the meetings. He still was outside, and Charles London was still relaying things to him. Hey, this is what you need to do. Did you see that? He was teaching even though he couldn't play.
Right.
So it's going, if indeed they do draft Hendon Hooker or any quarterback, it's up to the quarterback's coach to be the one that makes sure that when he steps on the field, whether it be preseason or regular season, that he's ready to go.
And honestly, Tannehill was right when he said that. It's not my job to mentor him. I think it was more so it's not my job to sit him down and get up at a chalkboard and walk him through X's and O's.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
No, it's not. But it's just like the optics of it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound
right.
good.
And it was one sentence, literally, that he said. Not my job to mentor him, but blah, 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 blah. It was like part of a sentence.
It was taken out of context.
It really was.
And I understood what he meant. But what you can learn as a backup to the starting quarterback, it's all learning through osmosis, what I think. Like, Hendon Hooker could sit behind Ryan Tannehill and observe and absorb. See what he's doing, kind of absorb what it takes to be a starting quarterback. Like, Ryan Tannehill's not going to sit him down and walk him through the playbook. That's Charles London's job.
Exactly.
But you learn by observing.
An intern, right? When you have an intern, or if you're in an internship, or if you come in on a shadowing deal, that's kind of what you do, right? You try to absorb. That's what I tried to do when I was just getting around different things. Watch what people do who are good at what they do. And, absorb all that stuff like a sponge. You're right. So I think that's where that goes. But developing quarterbacks is such an enormous thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we all feel like it's not done very well in the NFL, right? I don't think the league as a whole does a very good job of developing quarterbacks.
There's
not enough good
really
quarterbacks
quality
out there.
Quarterbacks.
Yeah.
It seems the NFL to me seems very top heavy. There's a handful of elite quarterbacks, and then everybody else is in Kirk Cousins land or Trubisky land. It's kind of what it feels like. Cody texts in and says, I'd rather take the chance on the upside of Anthony Richardson versus going for Hendon Hooker. Hooker's ceiling is Tannehill. Anthony Richardson's is Josh Allen. I don't know what Hendon Hooker's ceiling is.
Me either.
I know that Anthony Richardson's floor is very low. I saw Anthony Richardson absolutely ball the freak out against Tennessee. Threw for over 400 yards. I think he had 500-something yards of offense against Tennessee. And then I saw him play against South Florida and barely even be able to complete a pass. Anthony Richardson's floor is so low. The ceiling is high. That is true. He's incredibly talented. He's got a good arm. He's mobile. I can't take a risk on a quarterback that is so wishy-washy and so hot and cold. Florida went by Anthony Richardson. If you got good Anthony Richardson, Florida look good. Got a bad Anthony Richardson, you'd almost lose to South Florida.
Yeah.
Or Vanderbilt.
The floor is what he said. The ceiling. The ceiling is the roof.
The ceiling is the
Victory. Commodores.
Yeah, I mean,
and they even got an extra play at the end of the game that they weren't supposed to get, and they still lost.
But yeah, I mean, if I'm going with the proven product, and listen, Richardson, his ceiling may be high, and his ceiling may be Josh Allen, but that's not elite quarterback. If I'm being honest, Josh Allen he is not a elite quarterback. There's only 2 or 3 of those in the NFL right now. But, he could be Josh Allen, you're right, which is a really good quarterback in this league, or he could be Mitch Trubisky, which is a bad quarterback in this league.
Or worse.
Yeah, or worse. So do you want to, as a GM, do you want that to be your first pick?
No.
I mean, it could be, you can knock it out the park, and he could be great. But Rand did say that can get you fired, too.
Real easily.
Yeah.
Gets you hired and fired in this league. One texter texts in about the Predators. So the Predators have given up, you can tell, but you cannot blame the team entirely. The coach and the coaches haven't given them a reason to play. General Manager David Poyle haven't given them what they need.
Haven't given them a reason to play? What does that mean?
I don't know.
Well,
giving them a reason to play.
Here's your reason to play.
I really need to give you a reason to play?
I drafted you, or I brought you in as a free agent.
Your reason to play
I
is
gave you a
job.
bunch of money to play a sport that you supposedly love, and only so many get to play this sport at this level. Damn it, that's your motivation. It should be any. That's your motivation. There's only, how many spots are on a hockey team?
23.
There's only 23 spots on a hockey team, and you got one of them. That's like there's only 50-something spots on the NFL team. Damn it, I shouldn't have to motivate you. You got one of them. That should be your motivation to stay here.
Yeah.
That's it. That's me. I mean,
the coaches can't give you reason to play. The coaches can motivate you to play. The coaches can try and get the best locker room environment as they possibly can.
There's no question.
And the culture of the team, the identity of the team, that's the coach's job.
Nobody should feel comfortable about anything that happened last night. We spent the first half of the show breaking that down in detail. I will say this, as I've said many times before, I think there are some people that they don't give John Hines any benefit of the doubt because he doesn't have a lot of skins on the wall, and he's not Mr. Charisma. Right? Somebody called earlier today and said he doesn't look like he has any emotion during the game. I assure you, he's not just coming in la-di-da every day. I don't really care if we win or lose, but that's what the impression is sometimes. But when he doesn't have a Stanley Cup ring or things like that, like you don't become a coach in this league if you don't care, right? But I understand when the team's not doing well and people are frustrated. Sometimes it all goes on the shoulders of the coach. I think it should be compartmentalized. Everybody's got their share of what's going on right now. And he's got to take his share, right? John Hines does. But it's not all on him because he doesn't care. Or he doesn't give them a, quote, reason to play.
Do you want him to be what? Tom Cruise, what was the movie? When he got fired, he's like, y'all think I'm going to go crazy? Not going to go crazy. I'm just going to grab my butt. So y'all want him to go crazy? Y'all want him to yell and scream? And
Jerry Maguire.
Want him, Jerry Maguire. Do y'all want him to throw stuff out on the ice?
Well, they did that last
Well,
night.
he might have
he
might have been the catfish guy. I'm going to think John Hines was the catfish guy. He gave the signal, throw it, and he threw it.
I still want to know what happened there. During the game on a 2-on-1, it was a 2-on-1. It's not like the guy threw the catfish at, Brad Marchand or somebody like that. Like, that would make more sense.
But they know who threw it, Willie. They got cameras everywhere in that
building.
He was
on camera. He was on TV.
Maybe that's why we don't know who it is.
He had a
they
gold
know exactly
shirt on.
Who it is.
Like, we know who the guy was. What happened? I don't know. I haven't found out. I still would love to know what the heck happened with the catfish.
Like, why?
What happened?
Why would you?
Like, you can't do that.
Well, Willie, you make a very fair point. And what the question that I want to get into coming after the break is how much benefit of the doubt does John Hines get, and how much benefit of the doubt does John Hines deserve? We'll get into that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. It's Caroline, Willie, D-Mays, 1025-1063 The Game.
Every Wednesday at noon.
That fits the mentality of what they're going to do.
Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton joins Caroline, Willie, and D-Mays to talk all things Titans and NFL.
Much more creative in how you go about calling certain plays.
He's got opinions and insights on the two-tone blue.
That doesn't mean that you can't have great or don't need great quarterback play.
Catch Hutton every Wednesday at noon on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It's Family Leisure's President's Day sale.
Wait, President's Day?
Well, it's in honor of all our presidents, and it means great deals for everyone.
Okay, like what?
Well, pools and spas for one. Family Leisure has the largest selection and guarantees the lowest prices anywhere.
What about grills and grill islands?
Of course, everything is on sale for 4 days at Family Leisure, just in time for spring.
Family Leisure, both locations, Antioch and Franklin.
It's Quaz with Little Harpeth, and I'm just having one of our Chicken Scratch American Pilsners. It's one refreshing beer and a good example of the German lagers that we craft right here in Nashville. Chicken Scratch is made with locally sourced raw white corn, giving it a subtle cornbready sweetness. And speaking of sweetness, Chicken Scratch's closest associate goes by the name of Deer Crossing Hellas, also a lager with a light, crisp body and golden color, and it won us a gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival. So be on the lookout for our craft lagers. And as always, thank you for supporting our little brewery.
The National Wild Turkey Federation is celebrating 50 years of conservation delivery during this year's convention and sports show, set for February 16th through 18th at Gaylord Opryland Resort and Convention Center in Nashville, Tennessee. Come celebrate the golden anniversary with members, volunteers, partners, and countless outdoor enthusiasts. You can expect the same great nightly events, quality entertainment in the watering hole, and the latest gear from more than 450 companies featured in their exhibit hall. For more info, go to nwtf.org.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Every piece of land has a story. The Upshaw's right there is with a John Deere 1 Series tractor they call Penny. And this is Shaw.
Shaw stands for skilled hands at work.
When he's not cutting grass, he's cutting hair.
So every person is different, from hair tight to head shape. And I feel like it's the same way in a yard.
From front loader to backhoe, the Upshaws have the tools to DIY all day long. Run with us on a 1 Series tractor and start telling your story. Learn more at johndeere.com/radio.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Satisfied with the, they had the early goal. Did you guys have enough of a pushback in your mind?
I mean, they had the early goal, and then, I thought early in the first period our execution was not close to what it needed to be. I thought we turned pucks over at the offensive blue line. We didn't have ice to play on. I thought our power play was ineffective. Early, that gives you a chance to be able to have some pushback in the game, and that was the extent of the first period.
There you go. That was John Hines' post game last night. Just awful from the Preds last night. A 5-0 loss to the Boston Bruins. And Willie, you mentioned the fans don't always give John Hines the benefit of the doubt. And my question to you is, why do fans deserve to give John Hines the benefit of the doubt? With Mike Vrabel, after a losing season, everyone is looking at Mike Vrabel, not asking for his job, but because Mike Vrabel has shown that he is a good coach. He has proven that he has been able to get that team probably further than they deserve to be. In 2021, the most injured team in the league to get the top seed in the AFC. Mike Vrabel has deserved and earned that benefit of the doubt. What has John Hines done to earn the benefit of the doubt from fans?
Well, as I've said before, I think the last 2 years, if you're being fair, I think I thought they had overachieving teams. The 2 seasons leading up to this one. I don't think if you looked at preseason predictions that anybody had the Predators making the playoffs, and they made it both years. So I think he did a very good job with what he was handed. He was handed a mess. It was a broken team in the season where they fired Peter Laviolette. They started to make some pretty significant changes. They moved on from Arvidsson and Ryan Ellis and Nick Bonino and Craig Smith, who had a great game last night. A lot of guys. They got younger. It was not the same team that it was when they got to the Stanley Cup final. And then the following couple years with PK Subban and in those years, they had to sort of start turning the roster over. I think he did a very good job of keeping them a playoff team those 2 years. But, of course, when you're not having success this year, the expectations were higher. They added veterans. They have underachieved this year. And so he's got to take some heat. But I do think he gets sometimes a little too much of the heat. It's too easy to say it's just him. I think it's him for sure for some, but it's also, what are your top players doing? That's been my thing that I've been trying to say is, if your top players aren't having good years, then it's hard for any coach to sort of make it happen. Is the coach responsible for how well your top players play? Probably a little bit, right? But it's not like he's not putting them out there. He's trying the system is the same as it was last year when many of these players we're talking about had great years. So what's different? It's not like he's changed a lot.
But isn't that why we look at John Hines in his last year and say he overachieved last year? Is because those top players did have career years.
Yeah.
Duchesne had a career year. Forsberg had a career year. Johansson had a solid year.
Yeah. And I think like your point has been he shouldn't get all the credit for that. And you're right.
Not going to give him blame for it this year.
But no, so I think that's fair. Like he deserves credit for building that identity that worked so well the last year and a half, because it's really, they were struggling in the middle of March in 21. Mm-hmm. Then they really got it together. They found something, and from them all the way through to the time that UC Saros got hurt last year, it really looked pretty good for a while. So the players have to get some credit for that too, no question about it, for having the kind of year they did. It's not all the coach one way or the other. So I think it's got to be spread around a little bit more than I see what's fair. But look, I'll quote Elliot Friedman again yesterday. Nobody should feel comfortable when you're not playing up to expectations as a group. But Derek, you think? Let me just throw this at you. You would say that there are players that are easy to coach. There are also some players where it's a constant fight to pull it out of them. right?
You don't like those players.
It's hard, but sometimes those are the most talented players, and you have to have those talented players play well for you to succeed. That's the tough part about being a coach. Sometimes, like, I don't need to worry about how Derek is playing. I know Derek is going to show up every day. He's going to be everything he's got. I don't have to be knocking on his locker stall and say, I need to come see you, Derek. I don't have to worry about that. But maybe I have too many guys like that who they're not going to sink or swim our team. I've got these other guys over here that I know they've got the talent to succeed, but I've got to make sure they're focused every day, and it's a constant fight to do that. Every team has got those guys, I think.
Well, eventually that's going to get you fired. When you have guys like that you have to essentially go out of your way to try to figure out every day, one, is this player going to come in and practice? Is he going to practice the way I want him to practice, or to practice the way he needs to be practicing? And then two, is he going to play the way I want him to play and the way he needs to play in order for us to win? If my job hinges on that every day, then you might as well fire me now.
Well, let's give an extreme example from sports, right? And this is not there's nobody like this guy I'm going to mention, but Phil Jackson and Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Right. Dennis Rodman played for some teams where it worked really well. Chuck Daly got a lot out of Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
When he was with the Spurs, we can all remember Dennis Rodman taking his shoes off, sitting at the end of the bench, and just basically quitting on the team. And he was traded to the Bulls for Will Perdue, right? And so with the Bulls, what did Phil Jackson do? He figured out how to get something out of Dennis Rodman and got a lot out of Dennis Rodman.
But you can
right?
do that
That's
when
an
you have
extreme guy.
Yeah, but you can do that when you have the greatest player
ever
to play basketball.
And not just the greatest player, but hardest working player.
Exactly.
Michael
Absolutely.
Jordan. He set the tone. He demanded that from his team. So these are all the things that a coach has to tune into.
But Phil, but Phil had won 3 before Rodman got there, so he had the skins on the wall.
It was a little easier to get him to fall in line.
Exactly. So it was easy
and
to
Dennis
get him to
Rodman
fall
never
in line.
fully falls in the line anywhere.
No, he's going to be Rodman.
But they got mileage out of him.
Yeah, but when you have Pippen, when you have Jordan, who's setting the tempo and setting the culture every day, and guys you can have one guy that potentially does that walks to his own beat. You can have one guy, but in hockey you can't have.
Right, and I'm not saying Dennis Rodman is in the locker room
exactly
for the Predators or anything close to it, but I'm saying there's always a spectrum of guys, and that's part of the job of a coach, and it's not an easy job.
No, it's not.
But they're below standard. They're below expectation. They're in a tough spot. Let's see what they come out with tomorrow. It's desperation time.
It's not an easy job, but it is his job.
Yep.
That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back on Monday at 11 a.m. Stillman and Company is up next.
Peace.
Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the sunshine.
ElectronicExpress.com